first on the roster. Try to take the lead, I swear it'll cost you.
I'm a winner, real talk, money bags bigger. Head held high, I'm a champion with some shimmer. I'm a winner, real talk, ain't no beginner. Step to the throne, I'm a king, not a quitter. I'm a winner, real talk, money bags bigger. Head held high, I'm a champion with some shimmer. I'm a winner, real talk, ain't no beginner. Step to the throne, I'm a king, not a quitter. Hey.
Smile my way through life like it's easy. Most days I can't fake what I'm feeling. I've had success but still pretty needy. I've got skill, don't need to be lucky. I like winning, fame and the money. Try to take the lead, I swear I will own ya.
Winner, real talk, money bags bigger. Head held high, I'm a champion with some shimmer. I'm a winner, real talk, ain't no beginner. Step to the throne, I'm a king, not a quitter. I'm a winner, real talk, money bags.
From our first FNCS group of the Major, we saw a variety of ways that players are getting around the map. Let's break down how some of our top players are making the most out of the new mobility items introduced this season. The first item we'll take a look at is Sub-Zero's Combat Kit. The strength of this item is with the 3 dashes that each recharge after 10 seconds, giving you the ability to cover distance immediately. This is great for a quick dash, however the main trade-off with it is that these dashes cover a much shorter distance than other mobility items, making them less efficient for those longer rotations. We saw this last weekend when teams that had one player carrying the kit had to box up more often and make smaller, slower rotations, burning through materials. The attack feature of the kit is also a solid option for close-range engagements when you don't have a gun or ammo. This is a good place to start when considering mobility, and as long as you're using them correctly, you'll be able to make safe rotations. This season introduced a new mechanic, Gold Rush, which gives you increased movement speed and a faster pickaxe swing for a limited time. There are of course ways that you can get this effect naturally around the map, but the most popular way for competitive players is through the Gold Splash item. This item works very similarly to the original Chug Splashes in terms of health regeneration, however grant you the Gold Rush effect for 20 seconds. At the highest level of competition, this boost is vital, as we see a lot of teams using these to not only rotate faster, but to also quickly close in on fights after a beam. And with the pickaxe speed increase, allow them to get into their opponent's box much quicker when they get there. You can of course gather these splashes in the usual way, however top competitive players know that you can buy them 100% of the time at the backwards black market in Magic Mosses, at a cost of 150 gold per stack of 2. This is why we saw a lot of teams rotating through here to get an insane number of splashes, which helps propel them through all stages of the game. The main and clear favorite mobility item amongst competitive players this season is the Knee Capper Baseball Bat. This is an item that, when held out, gives you an increased sprint speed, reduced stamina depletion, and a boosted jump when sprinting, but also makes you immune to fall damage, which even some of the best players in the world are still struggling to get to grips with. Anyway, this speed increase can also be combined with the Gold Splashes to allow you to go even quicker, something that we saw a lot of our top teams take advantage of to quickly get to the front side of zone in endgame, or even to get out of the storm more efficiently. Also, although it's used a lot less than the sprint feature of the item, you can also use the Charge Smash to hit your teammates across the map and allow them to take 0 fall damage. This ability can allow teams to cover a large distance quickly if not all players are lucky enough to have it in their inventory. One more feature of this item that was very effective last weekend was the melee attack. This is a perfect way to get out of trouble as a last-minute bailout or even turn a fight inside of a box into a quick home run. This has similarities to what we saw last season with the Typhoon Blade, as it's really effective for top players to get easy Storm Surge damage while inside of an opponent's box, if they need a quick solution to their Storm Surge problems. With so many ways that players can move around the map this season and unique playstyles that we've already seen with these mobility items, we can't wait to see how the rest of Major 2 unfolds.
Welcome to the FNCS ProAm.
What is going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome to the FNCS. It is our time. Major number 2, group number 2 is about to go down. That's right. We already saw it take place over in EU, and they had some exciting games, but now it's our turn. What do our 5 games look like? What are the 5 victory royales look like? Who's going to make it through the top 5 in consistency? I'm already stressing, but it's okay. I've got 2 friends here who will help me keep a cool head during this very difficult time of stress. It's Kelly, it's Vivid. Friends, welcome to group 2 of Major 2. We're gonna have this 2 thing is just gonna keep going. We're gonna have 2 days of Fortnite back-to-back. Group 2 is today, group 3 is tomorrow, and then next weekend is finals. This feels like we're just zooming.
Yeah, I don't know who told you that we would be giving you like that there would be, a calming down effect from the 2 of us, because I don't think that's going to be happening whatsoever. It is going to be so exciting. And for me, it's all about the surprises. I mean, if you look back to group 1 just last weekend, we had a pretty big surprise, with that being that Peterbots trio was not able to win a single game. Now, in that same statement, they also did get a few records. So, I guess all in the day's work, it's the same thing that they're going for here. They're going for that victory royale. They're going for that top 5 consistency, but only 10 teams are going to make their way into the Major 2 finals, Vivid.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly, I have to note here as well, right? You're talking about not being able to kind of cool down because we're going to be so excited. I don't think it's possible to cool down Zeke, period. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be happening anyway. But yes, I mean, group number 2, a very exciting one. Definitely looking forward to it. After all that happened in group number 1, it's got me very, very excited. Last weekend, the only thing that I wished for was 5 good games of Fortnite. I got exactly that. And looking at group number 2, it looks like I'll get just that today as well.
Yeah, man, this is an interesting group. So what we've gone ahead and done, you know what, Zeke, before you do that, why don't you remind everyone about Tuesday? We just had Duo Day. Man, the ProAm is going down May 10th. If you missed out on Duo Day, there's a whole bunch of reveals. We now know the duos. It'll be at the FNCS ProAm. Make sure you guys go check that out. Get your tickets. We'd love to see you there. Okay, back to the competition. So this group is really interesting because there's a ton of experience as far as like how many total FNCS finals we've seen. But there's also something interesting on the other side where, take a look at this graphic, right? 302 FNCS finals out of everyone competing here. But there's something interesting here, Kelly, is that for 56 players, over half the lobby, they are trying to make their first ever FNCS finals.
And I think that's due to the group stage format, where you do have a lot of the big names teamed up with a lot of the newer teams, so you get this kind of top heavy FNCS performances there. And then you have also a lot of new trios, a lot of new players that enter the fray trying to get their spot into their first major finals. But for me, looking at the titles that we had there, Vivid, 7 of them and 2 players control 6 of those titles. So again, very top heavy as far as the stats go.
Yeah, I mean, I have to note there, those 302 FNCS finals, right? The total experience of the lobby, that's actually the most amount for any of the groups, right? Between groups 1, 2, and 3 on NAC over here. So technically, when you kind of look at it like that, it should be the most experienced group. But I love that kind of Zeke pointed out. 56 players looking for their first FNCS finals. That's pretty much the case for all 3 of our groups, right? More than half the lobby still looking for their first finals. It makes it really exciting for some of our competitors.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Again, just a reminder, over the half of the lobby has not made it to an FNCS finals. So just imagine that 300 number could go way up, right? And for some of these players to get their first appearance in the finals would mean the world to them. Let's go ahead and start talking about the trios, though. We want to highlight Muzz, Yapko, and Rise. So in that last graphic we saw, there was a total FNCS wins was 7. In this duo, we've got 3 of those 7 wins on a single trio here. That's crazy.
I mean, it's not just a single trio, it's a single player. All 3 of those belong to Muzz. And when you look at the accolades that Muzz has, the pedigree that he has, you can kind of understand why so many people look to him as kind of the leader of this group. And especially, Vivid, these solo Cash Cup performances that Muzz has been able to bring out, especially over the last 3 solo Cash Cups we had. He's gone first, second, and first, but joined up also with Yapko and Rise. This is actually somewhat of a newer trio. They formed up between week 5. They did play together during Major 1, but then broke up and then, of course, somehow found their way back together.
Yeah, of course, that NA chaos that happens, switching up all of the trios. But I love the fact that you kind of mentioned Muzz's solo performances, right? He always is very, very good in those solo competitions. That's because every single season, right, we have new mechanics, new items that come out. If you ever want to learn what you can do, right, stretch the limits of the possibilities of some of these items and mechanics in Fortnite, Muzz is the guy. He's always so good mechanically, no matter what season it is. So I'll be looking towards Mud to pop off today at some point.
I love it. I love it. Let's keep the ball rolling. There's more trios we want to talk about. Let's go on over to Booga, Rapid, and Threats. Obviously, Booga, Threats, they played together. We've got that new team member in Rapid. How do we expect this trio to perform?
I think that they're going to do a pretty good job. Booga and Threats have been playing together. They played with Aviv back in Major 1 and placed 7th, which is pretty decent. They tried things out with Craze for a little bit, but did end up with Rapid here. And I mean, Rapid's been an incredible player. We've seen him grow throughout the last few years, back when he played with Batman Booga. So I'm excited to see how they're going to be performing here. But for me, Vivid, my issue, my concern for them is that they're landing Seaport City, an incredible POI, but there's just so few trios landing near them.
I mean, I'm sure they'll have something kind of figured out for that, though, right? I mean, Booga's so experienced. He's dealt with pretty much everything there is to deal with when it comes to Fortnite competitions. Speaking on Rapid, right, the duo that kind of surged to the top of the leaderboard last year. Rapid and Batman Booga now both going their separate ways, finding themselves on very good trios. And of course, Threats always being at the top of the damage done for most of our competitions. I don't know if Storm Surge is going to be that big of a deal today, but if they make it to finals, which I'm sure they will, having Threats on your team, it's going to be awesome.
Okay, now you said awesome here. Let's talk about this next trio. It's Bucky, it's Ocus, it's Cam. I'm gonna tell you right now, if I see Bucky go crazy, I will be yelling into this microphone. So preempted, I'm sorry, but it's gonna happen. Obviously, seeing these guys come together, we've seen them perform super well. How do we expect they're gonna perform here in group number 2? Do we think they could go for that victory royale, or do we think they're gonna try and make it through consistency?
You know, with that mythic drum gun, I think that you can kind of have both positions there, whether they go for that victory royale. Ocus absolutely spraying the lobby, as you can see right here. But also, I think that they can have a pretty good job with consistency. They're landing uncontested over in Rolling Blossom Farm. They have some pretty, also a little bit empty around them. But like Vivid was saying before, when you come into the group stages like this, you're coming in with a plan to handle Storm Surge. So it might not be too much of a concern for them.
I mean, double controller players, though, right? A lot of fragging power when it comes down to that. A lot of experience under Bucky's belt as well. Got a little Vivid prediction coming in here. Sometimes I kind of throw these out. I'm going to go ahead and predict that this trio actually wins game number 2.
Oh.
Oh, okay. That's basically like 11 guarantee, but with Vivid, you know, it's like actually accurate, so that's cool. Ooh,
Oh.
Let's talk about this last trio. I swear, I'm going to get a DM from Levin right now. What did you say? Let's talk about this last trio. It's Clix, Iamzo, and Higgs. If you're unfamiliar with Higgs, he's actually Batman Booga, now rebranded. So, Higgs, I will be accidentally calling you Batman Booga at some point. I'm sorry in advance. But these guys, I mean, come on, they're fan favorite. To see them perform so well in the Div Cups, there's no way we don't see them qualify through the finals.
Well, if you're going to call him Batman Booga by accident, you might as well call him Exit Batman Booga by accident, because he did just sign up today for Exit, a big announcement from Clix's stream right there. So big congratulations to him. And this trio has obviously done such an incredible job. And you can look over on the stats on the right-hand side, that graph right there showing how well they've done during the Div Cup finals. Of course, that one stopping force being Peterbot's trio, making them just every time get so close to first place, but just missing out. That was until week 5, Vivid, and although a few people will say that there is a bit of an asterisk on that first place, I think that this trio has shown that they more than ever have a possibility of walking away first place, not just today, but in the Major 2 finals overall.
Yeah, I love that conversation, right? Could they win in FNCS? One of the things that are kind of contributing to that opinion on whether they could is the fact that they kind of stuck together after an incredible performance in season 1. No reason for them to really split up, but I just love how also, right, this trio pretty much streaming everything on Clix's channel. You know, Higgs kind of getting into the scene as well. Niamzo throwing it up every once in a while too. Just love to kind of see that side of it.
Yeah, they've had great performances during the finals, as we've said. But something that we see during the group stages is that the normal game plan or the normal play style tends to change a little bit. So being able to be adaptable is a big part of these trios having success during the play-ins and the group stages. And one way that we saw this trio adapt during the play-ins is their prioritization of Rift Island. In day one, I think they went for it once and then they actually got knocked. But in day two, they went for it 6 times out of their opportunities of being alive during the Rift Island spawning, and they got it 5 times. And a big focal point of that, of course, is that shield bubble medallion that Iamzo picked up time and time again. And although I don't think this medallion is going to be on the top of anyone's tier list, I don't know if it's A tier, you know, but I do think that any kind of boon, any kind of benefit that you can give yourself, especially when it's not taking up a spot on the loadout, is something that the best teams can like kind of bring forward.
Yeah, I mean, an advantage is an advantage, right? Regardless of what that is, if that makes the difference, that could be qualifying through Victory Royale. That could be enough to make it in the top 5. So I love that you call that out, Kelly. I can't wait to see them fight for this Rift Island. With that being said, though, it's not just us who are talking about Fortnite. We got your casters standing by. It's Monster Devious. It's Jacob PR. Say hi, friends.
Oh, I'm ready for the action. I mean, we got some of our favorite people in the community in this group here. We got Booga, we got Muzz, we got Clix's team. This is arguably one of the most exciting squads, right, of groups that we're going to be looking at here, Jacob.
Yeah, I got the chance to talk to Higgs before he joined Xset, and I said, did you see Peterbot's team in that last group? What do you have in store for us? He said, look, put it on notice that we're going to see some excitement. We're going to see some great things. Hopefully he wasn't just talking about his new organization, but my eyes will be glued to him and how they impact the entire lobby today.
Well, we all know momentum is in the sale for Higgs here. Congratulations on a new signing. I mean, listen, the groups are starting soon. I hope you're ready, Zeke, because we definitely are.
My stress builds, but it's fine. It's fine. Everything's cool. I'm here to see some cool Fortnite, and we're going to see some great Fortnite. So let's do that. Before we get going, though, we wanted to highlight here kind of the progression of the games we saw last week and kind of highlight from Zone 5 how the games kind of look. Viv, you had a really great breakdown of this, so take it away.
I mean, under the conditions of the format, right, it's really, really cool to kind of look at these types of things. So let's go ahead and take a look at how many players were actually alive as the games progressed in group number 1. And as you can see here, players alive in game number 1 at the end of Zone 5, 76. And as the day went on all the way down to game number 5, we had just 52 players alive. So of course, as the day goes on, these games get a lot more or a lot less stacked. It's just a very interesting to kind of take a look at the impact this might have, Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you go into that transitional period of the early game into the middle game where everyone starts to get like congested, that's where we see a lot of our top teams start to go down a little bit just through these rotations. But obviously, there's less players in the lobby, Vivid. Rotations might be a little bit easier.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we've seen the numbers. Now let's take a look at that, or how that actually looks on the map. What that actually kind of does as the day progresses. So as you can see here, this is at the end of Zone 5 in game number 1, right? 76 players alive. You can see a lot of trios posted up. Could be pretty hard to rotate around. Let's go ahead and take a look at what a very similar situation looks like, or time in the game for game number 5. A lot more room to kind of maneuver around, right? A lot less arrows on the map. There's 24 players less on the map right there. So as the day kind of goes on, you can expect some of these games to be a lot less stacked, and hopefully our players are able to adapt to something like this.
Interesting. Okay, and I mean, it's exciting, right? We'll have to see how the leaderboards kind of shake out, right? Because we can't forget, we're trying to make it through on a Victory Royale that auto qualifies us to finals. We get a VR, we're good. That's it. We don't have to do anything else. We'll see you next weekend. Or we make it through them top 5 in consistency. What are you guys hoping to see out of group number 2 today, right? They've been able to watch EU and even week 1. Do we think there's maybe some new strategies coming out? You know, some solid strategies we kind of expect to see?
I'm going to steal Vivid's answer, and I'm going to say I want to see 5 good games of Fortnite.
Listen, I already kind of made my prediction, right? Buggy Trio going to be winning game number 2. A lot of the line with that one right there. We're going to need them to clutch up and win that one for me. But yes, good Fortnite, Kelly. It's always great to see.
All right. I love to see it. 5 games ahead of us. Who is going to make it through? Man, my stress just went through the roof once again. I'm trying to calm down. It's fine. Okay, let's find our seats on that battle bus. Casters, take it away.
Yeah, listen, I'm looking forward to it. Jacob, we talked about how this lobby in particular, the list, there are so many players looking to make their first finals. It's always exciting when we get into these group stages. And then you have the vets, the big dogs. Yep. They're going to be the scariest ones to try to work your way through essentially at this point.
Yeah, Zeke's talking about nerves. I'm feeling a little bit of goosebumps right here because this is already going to be one of the more exciting things that we get to see on the weekend because EU has showed us just a little bit. The big names that you would expect to win games and qualify through the finals through that way did not actually do that. We had 3 of the biggest names in EU go through consistency. What would the trend be here in EU? Luckily for us, game 1 starts now, so we get to find out. Monster, there are so many big names, but you said it, there are 56 or so players looking to qualify for their first FNCS finals. And you can look at it glass half empty, glass half full, big names going through consistency or that game win. At least that shows that the recipe is there for these teams to really grind out a spot.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, these group stages really make it so that anyone can punch their ticket to the finals. It's not going to be easy though. You're looking at the list, you're looking at the players that have made FNCS, you know, appearances in the past. There's teams in here that we didn't even get to talk about or highlight at the top. Seneto, Sales, and Blake's trio being one of them, Quanti, TK, and Freezes being another. And that's just the beginning of the few, but let's turn our attention here to the Crime City. Looks like a little bit of a contested drop here between 2 trios. We'll be keeping close eyes on the feed here as these teams will eventually clash here shortly. It's not looking good for the good boy who's down low on low ground there, but Rain and True seem to be setting up for success here. Meanwhile, on the other side, teams just touching down now. Looks like G's is going to be one of the first here to go ahead and get setted here at the Demon's Dojo. One of the best drop spots. This group stage seems to have it a lot more calm than the previous seasons, it seems like.
Yeah, usually I feel like we see at least 3 teams here, 2 immediately fighting out, maybe even 2 on the outskirts, but they're taking a little bit of a slower approach. That could be because Group 1 is already done. A lot of teams been able to VOD review, look at the little intricacies, the small difference that really kind of plays a huge role in a lot of these games. So they want to make sure they loot up. They have the minis. You see the chug, and you see it's a big difference on both sides. Full shields, 75 shields on one side. On the other side, nothing. Only HP. Hopefully, their loot in terms of weaponry is going to be good enough to be able to fight if they do want to engage, because you already see the scanners coming out, and that's going to reveal everybody's position within a certain distance.
This drop right here is so powerful. Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo have it to themselves. That is going to be a huge set for success here. The Lone Wolf Lair, I mean, we already know it's isolated. It's got that natural elevation over it, and then you give it to them themselves. They're going to be able to cap material. What a huge setup for them. But jumping to the Whiffy Wharf, a little fight going down here. All in God's hand. Maji and Gavin right now have the advantage, but seems like Maj is a little bit weak, so with no extra heals here, it's going to come down to the exchanges. Frenzy is going to be the first to fall here to the hands of God. Very nicely done already now. 3v2 situation going through here. They have someone pinned up, Jacob. Not very many places for this last player to hide here, and it seems like they know exactly where he's at.
Yeah, that's a huge loot differential, but a third-party team coming in to the left of Whiffy, taking the open water. And another player is just slowly but surely waiting. Somebody disengage. That's going to be able to get shots, but Jake's going ahead and converging in. They have a huge advantage. You talked about that one elimination that they were able to grab. And if you look at the drop map before this game started, this was supposed to be uncontested. One team over here. The trigs underneath the sleeves are already being revealed. They're able to get the drop, but hopefully it doesn't work out against them, because that third-party team looking to get more and more aggressive on this situation, and even getting an elimination on the full trio. So it's essentially 2 duos and 1 trio around this location.
Good timing for Doggo Season. Jake and Pood here go ahead and time this entry, taking quick care of the teams that kind of kick this off, and they are coming in with much more arsenal. Notice, not even in the heals department, but just in the firepower too. Now they land the shots they need, they find the points they need, and all of a sudden they have the rest of the loot there to clean for themselves. Jumping into one of the star-studded trios here on the group stage, it is Muzz, Rise, and Japco returning as a trio here. You know, you love to see teams kind of stick through and have that loyalty, right, to run games with one another, develop as a trio. This is the kind of example we like to see set for the comm.
Yeah, sometimes, roster mania, you think the grass is greener on the other side. But you've seen they're getting back together right before play-ins. And if you look at just day one of Major 1, this was the team, when you were looking at the top of the leaderboard, everything was going their way. The zone, picking up key eliminations, even victory royales, they just weren't able to really keep that consistency. Ended up getting that 5th place, but this is a second chance. Rise, one of the greatest IGLs that we do have on the region, has a chance to learn from a lot of the mistakes. And because of the fact that they did stay together as a team, he doesn't have to learn a new play style. He doesn't have to learn differences of a whole nother player joining his team, so they're able to continue where they left off. As we jump on over to Foxy Floodgate, Blake, Sales, and Sonetto, they're going to claim all of this space over towards Foxy. There is a lot of loot. This is where you can get a lot of your material in terms of metal, and there's that mountain you see at the bottom right of the minimap. That's going to be one of the best mountains on this side of the map to get your Storm Surge. So already, I feel like they're playing this one pretty well.
And I will say that's definitely a sleeper trio to keep your eyes on. Easily have what it takes to take a victory royale. And of course, none other than Japko right now setting up this side angle, looking for the lurk here. But it seems like he was actually caught out, and the opponent up above throws the brick over, looking for the piece control. He's a little smarter than that. Goes for it, the full-on trade, and Japko unfortunately couldn't find the tags here. Where's his teammates to back him up? Rise and Muzz have the potential to do so. There it is. Rise from the other side, and they collapse so quick, making it look nice and easy, but it's not without its damage. Japko does have to pause here. Kind of pushed out the fight. Meanwhile, Muzz playing the side angle. I mean, Muzz, we all know, is obviously one of the best mechanically, but also accuracy as well is definitely in his court. And just like that, the outskirts, the westernmost area of the map, they end up cleaning up a team. I am enough just trying to hide out here, and might not be long before it's all over. There it is. Rise has an idea. What's this odd, suspicious looking cone here? Can't be a player under there, of course. There it is.
So out of place.
3 eliminations.
So out of place for that cone. That's actually good for them, because this is typically how they get their surge. Whiffy, they usually find themselves up there getting surge tags, but now with a contested fight just towards the Outlaws Oasis, that's just southwest of where they land, they're able to get into the action much quicker. And you got to give Rise all the credit. Crashing onto Yapko's guy, winning a 1v1, and being able to solidify that 3rd elimination, going to show that IGLs this season are going above and beyond their typical role in a lot of these games. You're seeing it from Rise here, and we might even see it from Yamzo. Uncontested, they're going to continue to play their game out as you see a third party trying to sneak up the side of the mountain. Powerless and their teammate were able to kind of spot that one out, and that's the biggest thing. When you have that amount of elevation on the side of a mountain, I feel like you should never get snuck up on.
Yeah, definitely. And Frag here almost has this whole thing go bad, and there's actually trios on both sides. One's going to go ahead and bail out, using the Ice Gauntlets to go ahead and re-maneuver here. Not looking too hot for Azteca Civ, but he seems like he wants to stick around and play for some tags. I don't blame him, right? This is your opportunity to go ahead and find some of this surge damage while you have the opportunity to. The other trio completely disengaging off of this positioning here, Jacob. Seems like they're content with giving it up. Talk about teams lurking on mountains. What's going on here? Hound, Carillion, and Northern looking to do the same.
Yeah, just playing this one very, very slow. They know that team has to come down eventually for the most part. I know they're just barely outside of zone on the top of the mountain. They can kind of stay there for as long as possible, but they're just kind of hoping they make a mistake. If the launch pad is down there, they know that's going to be a huge, important rotational tool if they do want to take it, especially you see there's no kneecappers, there's no gauntlets in this inventory. But luckily for them, they don't even know how blessed they just got. Going down the other side of the mountain, that means Carillion, Hound, and Northern are not going to be able to get that sneaky play that they were looking for, but they gained the position on the top of the mountain. That's going to give them that vantage to kind of assess the situation of how many players are actually in and around this location.
And look, they actually have no idea. Now they figure it out, like, wait a second, they're gone. And, hey, they're going to tail them, which I still think it's pretty decent because, yes, if they get to this this edge here, you know, this is free tags here lining up. We'll see if they end up 3-2-1-ing a singular target. Pay attention to the feed. But all eyes on threats. Booga here. And of course, Rapid. I just really didn't even expect Rapid to become a part of this team. This is one of those, you know, pickups that you see happen. You're like, huh, makes sense, right? Someone as rising of a player as Rapid, I think fits right in here and brings tons of firepower. And just look at the stat there, placing top 10 in 80 per 6 percent of their attempts. So far, very, very consistent. I think actually the most consistent as far as top 10 appearances of any trio here on the evening. So the likelihood of them going straight to finals is there. But look at this, Jacob. We get to continue that action here. Northern, Hound, and Carillion, they just couldn't let up on it. They wanted this fight. They know they need the damage, and they already found the elimination.
Yeah, that first one was kind of like taking candy from baby. Completely picked him off, going through the open water. Remember, there's really no mobility, no kneecapper, no Sub-Zero gauntlets to go ahead and create that distance. So they're just kind of stuck right now in this 3v2 position. But so far, defending off well, playing defensively. Hound not getting the confidence to move in just yet. Probably listen to the huge cues from his teammate Northern and Carillion, waiting for one of them to really break the mold open and try to stretch in. And you can see they're just doing what they can on the other side. When you're in a 2v3 situation like this, you cannot take any free damage. If you put yourself in a situation, you got to be sure of it. And right now, that would have been a good 2v1 opportunity if they wanted to push it, but they just don't know exactly where everybody's at.
And do keep in mind, you're going to see a lot of new names here on the broadcast. These are players fighting for their first chance ever to make it to a finals of the FNCS lobby. For some, they might be in for a rude awakening. What comes with this type of territory? It's big players, it's big fights, and it's big names here. Action happens everywhere, and this is one of those ones where you could just tell that for Annonia, they don't know what just hit them, but they are putting up a wonderful fight here against this three-man team of Carillion, Hound, and Northern. And it seems like they've attracted the attention of another team from the upstairs, and Hound is going to be the first to fall by the third party. So just showing you that anything can happen.
Yeah, that's Civ, Jers, and Rain. You saw them kind of looking around for quite a long time in this early game. They went off of that launch pad and they immediately found this team fighting. Even with Northern still alive, it's just a sliver of HP, so a lot of the pressure is going to be on Carillion to stay alive as they get just a couple of quick shots, some damage, and the fallen loot of one of the players early on. Quersy is going to try to get revived. That trio did not necessarily get the knock on this player, so they don't know he was down getting revived, but they know somebody's there. 3v2, that's a huge advantage, and I think this is going to be an opportunity for them to stay on this. This is how they're going to get their surge, and it's almost needed at this situation.
Yeah, Jerry's Fire taking no chances there, utilizing that Chug Jug to go in and cap off here, allowing Azteca to go in and finish the job. You saw they had the gold rush effect from the splash too, so just such an advantage that they put themselves in here. And, you know, it was worth it, right? They got a couple tags on the previous team there, and then a singular elimination. At the end of the day, it's all damage starts to rack up here.
Uh-oh.
They're trying to hunt for what's left, but Carillion and Northern are already gone.
Yeah, I saw that. They were just, I think this maybe the second revive onto Northern. They don't have HP back here. They're splitting 7 bandages between the two. Luckily, they are able to find more, but this is just a tough situation to be in because now you're just playing for scraps. You're almost like hoping and praying you find a med kit or anything that's left over by any one of those teams. We're going to see if they can not only get themselves back into the game in zone, but if they can get their trio up later on as we switch on over to Brutal Boxcars. Freeze, TK, and Quanti. Kind of uncontested over here towards Brutal, and something that we've seen since this POI became the thing is how important this mountain is just outside of the POI. Not only is there a lot of loot, so if you are uncontested, you can kind of split the drop a little bit, but you know so many teams are going to rotate through and around that mountain, so that way they can try to get in zone, especially since it is pulling to the north.
Put a big shining light here onto Bucky, Okus, and Cam earlier today. It seems like Cam's already knocked, so things not quite going their way, but Bucky putting up a great fight here as he kind of looks to disengage right now. Finds a med kit off in the distance here, has to make a mad dash for it. Couple moments left to go ahead and pop it, but no sweat. Comes in just the nick of time here. That trio paused up in the distance there according to the map, so they're thinking about the direction they want to take. Luckily for Okus here, seems like the pressure is off and he'll be one of the first to go ahead and get to this safe zone. But man, oh man, not looking too hot right now for this team here. We'll see if they can go ahead and bounce back. Can't count them out just yet though. Meanwhile, for Sand, Xanda, Envy here, they're below the surge. They have to go ahead and pick a fight here shortly. Seems like they do see Jake's team off in the distance there. And then we jump in with Clicks, Iamzo, and Xet, Higgs in the mix right now, getting active.
sticking to their game plan from Lone Wolf to the Black Market and Magic Mosses to fighting teams nearby where the close range are long to try to get Surge. They're only 102 above. And with some teams, they feel pressure to try to get more and more. This is a team that feels more and more comfortable when they're in this situation. Shots just going through the mythic collateral AR in Clix' hands, proven to be very, very formidable weapon as he breaks through the box, gets the first knock, and now the full trio seeing that as a green light to go. And with one down, there's another one almost getting taken down as well. He's barely able to slip out, but surviving for just only a few seconds longer before Higgs and Yongo find that second elimination out of the trio.
Nicely done there for Clix too, going back to the basics, saying, hey, you know what, not worth putting it all on the line with the 50-50 here. Decides to go for the quick heal instead, and luckily for them, they finished this fight before those third-party teams get situated and decide to make a push onto them. But this allows that one player to go ahead and get away. Either way, it's going to swing them way up the damage threshold, given that they were only 99 above just previously. So they're in a great spot here coming into the mid game. Meanwhile, Evan, Xanda, and Sandalit got into a bit of a fight here. Things are slowing down on all sides right now, and Evan not too sure where the opponent's at. He's taking the risk of walking and sneaking through the builds here. Oh, ends up playing off. He finds Jake with a couple tags. Xanda takes advantage of the push here in the shield crack. He's on in.
Almost runs into him there, but good job slow him down, but Jake goes down, so that slow play is only going to last for so long as they immediately continue to put that pressure on. 3v1 situation, zone moving in, and I think that player's finally going to go down. They're able to kind of clean up yet another couple eliminations, but off the top of the mountain, you see Cell, Sinetto, and Blake working their way over, taking control of the actual Brutal Boxcar's position. And typically, I would say, hey, if you needed metal, this would be a good spot to kind of pick up any bit of that material that you might be missing, but they find eliminations better because now they're getting material, they're getting resources, and they're getting position if that zone does pull off of the mountain.
Take a look at the vets right here. Byla, Aaron, and Nut right now on the move. Great tags for Byla through the trees there. Oh, this is onto Xanda's team, who, again, just wrapped up that fight there. So they're coming out a bit desperate for wear. Xanda being one of the few kind of trailing behind as far as this trio is concerned. And this is definitely a team that has been in the finals multiple times before, obviously led by Byla. Looking to find their way to the finals right now.
They land over towards Flooded Frogs this game, so the zone helping a team like this and a bunch of the other teams that are landing towards the north side of the map overall. We can see the zone pushing more and more of these teams in, away from the black market, outside of Magic Mosses. But when you hear a reboot, you're below on Surge. That is almost a must. It's a sacrifice. They're able to get the knock on one, but they're still 182 below the threshold. And now it's active Surge. About every 7 seconds, 25 damage. They need to find more than just eliminations as they get a knock on another one, but it's still hurting them. Barely 2 above the damage threshold with 2 straight eliminations, Monster. They're almost feeling the pressure to have to go after this third one, because at a second, yep, they drop below 28. They find the third, and even then, after the elimination, they're barely above the threshold, so they know they're on the clock once more.
Sad part about it, that team was also under Surge, so the Surge is like actively taking damage that could have otherwise been sent to the team there away from them, and it was just all around a net negative. Very tough spot to be in, but hey, there's a lot of players getting active right now. All hope is not lost. And speaking about that, Okis ends up picking back up Cam and Bucky here, so they're back in the game right now. But look at this rotate happening here. We have 4 trios on the move coming out of the same exact area of the floodgate here. This is all around questionable. Okis with a huge beam onto Fraggy AK. A quick shot right there is going to go ahead and give him a huge damage lead. And not only that, I was going to say a potential elimination to come, but no, the team's there to go ahead and pick them up. Actually, I take it back. There it is. The Surge ends up doing the rest, it seems like, for this team. I think Okis recognizes there could be more chances here for quick elimination. But Jacob, what do you think about these edge fights going down right now?
It's just tough. It almost kind of reminds me a little bit of last week about how slow and how impactful Storm Surge was. I know Vivid was breaking that down in the pre-show about how many players were alive. And that's the thing. When so many players are alive early on in the game, that just increases the Storm Surge threshold tenfold. So if you're not being proactive, you're seeing, even with 2 eliminations on Northern and Carillion, they're barely 100 above. So they stagger just on the edge of the zone. There's a lot of space for it to open up. But for now, this is where a lot of trios will find themselves trying to position themselves, and 20 finds himself the focus of it all. Broken goes down as well. This is not a great situation for a team that might not be the most healthiest coming out, and even with them being the aggressors, Hound, Carillion, and Northern have garnered the attention of other players in the lobby. You saw for a split second they were becoming the focus until it all just slowed down and stopped.
You would have thought they didn't need that much damage, but just with how quickly things are kind of going back and forth there, it was important for them to find that elimination. And now look at this, they cap off on material. They were looking a lot worse just a couple of moments ago, so all that loot comes crumbling down. I wonder if they ended up picking up 20's team there as well. You saw he was just definitely did a few layers above them. And now they have an opportunity to go ahead and be super set for the end game here. This is just game 1 though. Catching up with Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs here. 3 eliminations for the trio. Already digging into those very prestigious splashes here. Kind of early into the end game right now. Yamzo, Higgs, and Clix do look like they can use a refresh here.
Yeah, typically they're able to keep those splashes alive for such a long time due to the black market, due to the lone wolf layer gold that they're able to get. You see him sneaking around, found that one on an echo, kind of saving Higgs from taking a little bit of damage. You saw earlier on before that play kind of ensued that Clix was a little weak as well. So Yamzo, the IGL, I'm talking about this season, I feel like, Monster, a lot of the North American IGLs are taking it just another step further. They're becoming kind of side fraggers for their team, especially in those front tarps where they're able to take a lot of position in the zone as it pulls all the way towards the north. A good chunk of the lobby has a short rotation, but I feel for those players that just got that max pool.
Yeah, definitely. Max pool is nothing fun to play around with, but hey, you got a knee capper, you should be just fine. And speaking of which, Booga here, already about halfway through the rotate at the moment. Seems like they're trying to size up their next pickup here. No elims right now for Batman, Booga, Rapid, and Threats. Of the 3 big trios that we were keeping an eye on, this team here does have the, I'd say, about the lowest average elimination count per game, just shy of 5 per game. So typically picking up more elims towards that very last endgame moment. Blake, Sonetto, and Salesdale playing for high ground right now, trying to set themselves up for early victory royale. We'll see if it's going to be worth it going for height this early, though, Jacob.
Yeah, they were able to get that knock on the Quanti with everybody else having to rotate in. They're kind of hoping that they kind of jump over in that position. They're able to get the revive, especially if they do have some heals, maybe a med miss smoke. Good resources will allow you to kind of make up for that blunder. Sonetto goes to the front side of the zone. Him and Sales are going to reconnect. So Blake, Sonetto, and Sales, 8 zone Monster. They're looking to take the high ground and hold on to it. But I look at their resources at the same time, and I'm almost getting a little worried. This might be a little too early, especially if somebody contests them in the next couple of zones.
Yeah, undoubtedly. That's an early time to go for high ground right there, especially with how much they have to commit. They are going to be in desperate need of a refresh soon, and they'll have to give it up ultimately, but not without a fight, of course. 20 TK freeze. They managed to get themselves out of that. Or sorry, Quanti. I thought 20 for a second. I'm like, wait a second. I thought he got taken out, but no, Quanti, TK, and freeze. Very much situated here, looking for a refresh themselves. They need more material count. Love the little pre-edit play there. Doug doesn't turn into a pickup just yet. The wide shot giving us the bird's eyes view, if you will. Muzz, Rising Jab Kill, working their way up. They have the mats to hold this high ground, and look at this. They're breaking it out. They notice some weakness in the structure, and this team doesn't really have a lot of mats to keep this connected.
I'm wondering the same thing. They look back, they're like, wait, where is it connected at? It's still up. Sonetto was trying to save it and realizing that we cannot waste too much time on this. The zone is now pushing us in. We have to rotate along with it. That's something we can check out later because they've already weakened the structure. Down below, ultimate low ground, business as usual. Clixie, Yamzo, and Higgs. This is one of the team that have the utmost confidence in to dominate the low ground every step of the way. 280 above the damage threshold, still able to hold on to those splashes, and they find a team. They're going to quickly move in, get some damage onto aerial before they have to converge back on out. Iyamzo is just keeping, you see him formulating the strategy, making sure to keep the team on the same page.
This is very impressive as well. Notice they've been only using splashes. No minis, no big pots, one chug jug, right? And they're making this work, taking very limited damage. However, they are in this end game right now, and it is starting to go down now. Sinetto, Blake, and Sales seem to be running out of gas on the high ground. Big name teams are starting to fall now. Quanti, TK, and Freeze down to just 32 total health here, working with the edge of zone on his tail. Forced to run his way through, and he's the last alive. This is so risky, but he needs the health. He's desperate for it and just trying to squeeze out as many points as possible. Meanwhile, a fight goes on for high ground. Two teams trying to make a name for themselves right now, trying to see who can be the kings of high ground. Somehow Blake has just enough to stretch it out, but his resources are running down, counting down ever so fast. It's going to be a very important elimination for him, and they don't get it there, Jacob. It's not looking hot.
Yeah, it was Frogs. That was good, boy. They immediately leap their way down to the low ground, but down comes Blake. Sinetto's going down altogether from high ground to now in shambles. The tables have turned, and they're trying to figure out which way to go. Is now he's fresh out of builds, using the men mist to try to stagger him back, waiting for Sinetto to go down. Those are very important siphon mats for Blake, because now he's the last one alive.
And he's going to slide up. Blake jumps behind the team, going for a 2v1. Talking about playing the cards on the table right now. Really trying to make a big play here now. This is desperate, though. It's giving the low ground teams time to fight while the high ground teams are distracted. This is a perfect situation for the other teams on low, but Frogs isn't here to give it up, and they do a good job maintaining it. But now there are just two players left on this trio here. Meanwhile, in the low ground, Muzz, Rise, and Jabco, one of the only full teams that seem to be relatively healthy with material count, but the zone bounces back over the mountain. That's going to work against them. Jabco forced into a fight here against Byla's team, who is also now fully situated. Everyone's got their own layers, though, Jacob. It's going to end up crumbling here and now.
Yeah, they just immediately drop down to the low ground. They don't want to become the target from Height or any of those players running around in that mid layer. Double chugs, mythic pump. They have the recipe for success, but on the high ground, Frogs, good boy, they have not looked back at this opportunity, and they have the pressure with the drum gun, trying to force those teams down below to exchange shots, and Aaron's going to feel a lot of the pain. Rise gets that first elimination. Muzz gets another one on the nut. The damage has been done, but they lose Yapko along the way. This might come down to a straight 2v2.
And Byla's just waiting it out. Byla healing in the zone, so a 2v2. Muzz and Rise have to clutch this one up, but Byla with a distraction for the high ground there. Frogs and Good Boy force the fight. Good Boy charging up the bat, seeing if he can send them flying, and he will send one in, another, and now slides his way into the zone. Frogs puts damage down, and Good Boy could play for the siphon here, but Muzz already healing. I think he has enough to maintain it through to the end. He will have a slight lead, but if the siphon doesn't come through, a chug drops in just a couple moments there. Muzz now on the hunt here, has to come in. It's going to be up to one shot. Good Boy with the wall block, and Muzz clutches it in the end.
This is just practice on practice for Muzz in these solo situations. How many solo championships does he have? How many solo victories does this man need to prove that he is one of the best individual players on the region? It comes down to a 1v1, a fight that was really started and broken open by Rise, but he had all the trust in Muzz to finish that fight. When it went down to a heal off, I don't even think they were worried for a second. And this was the path that they took to get there, dominating so many teams when they had the chance, taking down so many players, and those vital resources were able to find multiple chug chugs, empty or not. That was Muzz's key to victory.
What a close game there. Rise falling could have cost them all, but Muzz said, no, hold on, I'm gonna fight. And he finds the tag there. Wonderfully done, and a big win for Muzz, Jabco, and Rise now in game number 1. Zeke, what a game that was.
Muzz! This is why if you don't believe in Muzz, this should prove to you that you should believe in Muzz. This is why he has titles in multiple regions, right? When your back's against the wall, most players wouldn't just like super calmly accurately, precisely go, that's where they are. I need to do this, I need to do this, and this is where I flip the coin. 50-50, you or me. In Muzz's case, it's always 100% in his favor. Oh my gosh, game number 1. We get the victory royale from Muzz, Yapko, and Rise. And I'm just telling you right now, Yapko and Rise, if they were not popping off, I don't even know. I don't even know, dude. Muzz, that was sick.
I love it. This is exactly how we want to start Group 2 with Muzz, Rise, and Yapko coming out on top there. And you know those little hypothetical games that people play where, you know, oh, it's going to be like a horse-sized duck versus 10 duck-sized horses. Well, now we know that Muzz versus 48 million frogs, Muzz will actually come out on top there. So congratulations once again to Muzz, Rise, and Yapko. They played that so well, but down to the final moments there, Vivid, I was so worried, and then Muzz, of course, clutches it out.
I mean, the final moments, right? Of course, we're going to highlight those, but controlling the low ground throughout the entirety of that end game, that's gonna be the highlight of the match for me, right? They just had full control over it. And honestly, I thought Clix, Iggs, Yamzo, they were going to be the ones that had control over it. No, they overcame them as a trio. Ended up coming down to that 1v1. Of course, Muzz is going to win that. Rise has already kind of hit socials. He was like, in and out, put a little smiley face after that one. Game 1, the rest of the day is your guys as a trio. What an awesome game number 1.
Man, I'm sad. I'm sad because that means we won't get to see them. Like, that's it. They're good. The next time we see them is next weekend in finals. I want to see more Muzz, Yapko, and Rise, but for them, now it's all about finals. How do we focus up? Where are we going? What's the plan? More on that next weekend. For now, though, we have to go to a break. When we return, we'll talk about what we saw out of game number 1. So we'll see you soon. music back. Come on. All right, anyway. Game number 1. Muzz, Yapko, and Rise got themselves the victory royale, which unfortunately means we won't see them until finals, which is good for them because that's great for them, but it's sad for me because I want to see them play more. But man, a lot of things happened in that last game. If you're just tuning in, welcome. This is group number 2. We're looking for the victory royale to make it to finals or to end the day in the top 5 in consistency. Let's talk about some of the things we saw in that last game. We got to start, of course, Clicks, Iamzo, and Higgs. I almost said Batman Booga. That was close. I caught myself. They performed well in this last game. They ended 7th place with 5 elims, right? I like to see this kind of strong start. We go ahead, we get some momentum building, and over the next few games, rather, we aim for that VR. Maybe we just play for consistency. Either way, I'm happy.
Oh yeah, and this was a pretty standard game for what we see out of Clix, Iamzo, and Higgs time and time again. Sticking to the low ground, sticking to the front of zone, but obviously it's going to be a little bit of a hindrance when you also have Muzz's trio on the edge of zone. There was a moment there around zone 10, zone 11, where if you look actually at the front of zone, it's both trios neck and neck for each other. I believe Clix's trio was on the left-hand side, and just a few boxes over was Muzz's trio. But this, I don't think, is going to put a stall in their momentum whatsoever, Vivid. I think that this is just kind of, you know, what happens in the group stages.
Yeah, and relatively speaking, still a pretty good game out of them, right? Keep themselves in the top 10, right there at 6th place. Pretty decent game from them. Another, you know, trio that we should look towards. It's gonna be Booga's trio, right? Actually not creeping in the 8th place spot. Booga, Rapid, and Threats also keeping themselves in the conversation there. There was an incredible stat that was floating that mentioned, you know, they hardly ever get outside of the top 10, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they definitely qualify through the consistency. Continuing that trend, though.
Yeah, when watching especially our kind of tier 1 trios in these group stages, I consistently see either they go for high ground or they go for low ground. But Booga's trio, and something that I've noticed them do before, is that they kind of like this second height. Not necessarily to steal height away, but I think that they just kind of like being able to, you know, take shots at the high ground, but also look low, go for those loot drops if they are able to grab it. So that's kind of just an interesting little tidbit that I've noticed from Booga's trio in the past.
I love it. You can never count out Booga, right? He'll steal away those games, and I'm sure we'll see that happen in one of the 4 that remain. Another duo we saw in this game, Blake, Sales, and Soneto up on high ground. Let's go, Blake. Let's do more of that.
Yeah, Blake on high ground there. They had it for quite a while until all 48 million frogs jumped up at once and tried to steal it away from them. But really what was surprising to me, Vivid, was his ability to take height once again. Blake lost Soneto and Sales, but was able to kind of try to go for height as a solo and have various degrees of success controlling high ground here. But still, to see that from Blake, I love to see it. I'm excited to see what they do in game 2.
Yeah, kind of the battle for high ground right there, right? It was honestly incredible. There was a team that was kind of playing that second height, and they were very, very distracted by the team trying to pressure them down. That team never ended up actually going down, continued to fight for it. And unfortunately for Blakeshire, right, they couldn't actually find any space to go find any refreshes, any time to go pick up some mats. Nevertheless, just ended up running out of mats, and Blake tried his best to kind of solo clutch and take that high ground back. Did not end up working out, though.
Yeah, let's just do it again, but this time let's just get impact, let's get refreshes, or just kind of save mats, right? Whatever that puzzle is, we just need to solve that, but it begins with the high ground, and I love to see that from Blake and his trio. With that being said, though, game number 2 is ready for us. Let's just jump right back into the action. Casters, take it away.
Things are heating up very, very quickly with a spot opened up, Shiny Shafts. That is a great spot, a great amount of loot that Muzz has just unleashed to the rest of the lobby monster. And with 4 games left, makes you wonder, what change-ups will we have?
Yeah, and if you're the Western team that got taken out right away in the early game, you're pretty happy, right? You get to ease off that pressure there, so they have an opportunity now to also get into the game. And this is what happens. The dynamic changes round to round. That's what makes these group stages very fun. So shout out to Muzz, Javco, Rise. You saw the aura was there, in and out. Nice day of work. Let's watch game number 2 now. All right, Jacob. Well, things are going to be heating up here for the Major 2, game number 2. What a piece of action we just saw play out for game 1. Very fun start to the day, and you know, sometimes I find myself in my head like, wait, I gotta pace myself, right? We got a lot of Fortnite in front of us, but when it starts to get good, it gets very exciting. We already know, though, Jacob, some of the early action to Demon's Dojo is going to be one of those places that we want to focus in on, but we also got, of course, Nut, Vila, and Aaron. Very close game for them coming out of the Flooded Frogs as they almost picked up a victory royale.
Yeah, right there, this is one of those teams in game number 1. They were supposed to be contested, and already it seems like switch-ups are happening after a spot opens up. People are realizing who's dropping where. That might not be one that I would want to take as Vortex, Bacon, and Nerface. Kind of a pretty good performance in that last game, willing to fight for high ground, and this is a team that we're gonna have to be watching out throughout the course of the day. If you're brave enough, if you're confident enough to at least go fight a contested fight on high ground, even when you lose a player, a teammate along the way, you're still trying to contest for it. That's just a good sign of confidence, and I can't wait to see what they're gonna do for the rest of the day. 75 points, second place overall on the consistency leaderboard after that first game.
Gotta give them credit, and a very appropriate drop spot for them here at the Crime City. Going up against Azteca, Dave Reigns, and of course Jerry's Fire. So from game 1, this is a fight that actually broke out, and another team came in, and then they actually all disbanded. So they didn't get to finish that action there, and that was luckily, you know, in our favor. They gave us a wonderful game 1 endgame. Meanwhile, back on over to the Demon's Dojo. Liam, Vivid G's, and AOKOD going for the high ground retake here. Not looking too hot for the opponent, who gets boxed up and forced out, but he puts up a great tag, at least does some damage before getting fully eliminated there. Nicely done for Proxy defensively, but him and his teammate are already down, and Tenya and Viper coming in for some visuals. Tenya just trying to disengage right now. Viper seems to have spotted the solo. He's looking around from that high ground saying, wait a second, where's your team?
It's like a huge difference, because remember game 1, it was very, very slow, basically splitting Demon's Dojo, going their separate ways. Hey, but when you have an open opportunity, you jump on a player from that trio that's just separated out of position. Those are the opportunities you got to take, and here's another example of that. Blake Sonetto sails, they see somebody just a little bit too far from their trio, from their liking. They get the full piece, boxes them up, and takes down their first elimination of this game. And that's big for a team like this that knows that they can play for high ground, and they may have went for it a little bit too early. 8th zone, they got overtaken, didn't have the mats to keep fighting for it, but these are little experience. With how many FNCS finals Blake has achieved while being contested, I think this just starts to build his confidence game after game.
Yeah, definitely. Confidence is important. Going for high ground, still, there's lessons learned in those moments. And now I'm sure they're weighing their next game accordingly. Meanwhile, back on over to Bucky, Cams, and Okus here. We saw that at game 1, Cam was one of the early casualties before they had to find a way to kind of get them back in the game. And now here's a one takeaway from game number 1. At least it wasn't a 0-point game for them, right? They allowed themselves to at least get a foot in the door here. And if nothing else, they're still fighting for consistency right now. But we all know here, this is a team that can surely win a game should things align correctly for them.
Yeah, and kind of see the mixed match of this team. Bucky's team with Okus, Bucky's team with Cam before in duo competitions. Now they bring it all together. They're moving their drop spot from Foxy Floodgates over to here because they got instant access to that black market, which means they're going to get that mythic drum gun right out of the gates. The only real question is the metal material, how much of that they're going to be able to get as a team, and where they're going to get their Storm Surge. Kelly said something earlier about Booga's team. It's because so many teams around that area are uncontested, which means there's going to be a lot of open space. So it's not going to be easy to come by as Clicks, Higgs, Yamzo. They already looted up their Lone Wolf Flare. They got all the gold. Now they're trying to break into the black market. They know at least one team is there, and they're immediately trying to push their way in. But the Porta Potty, the exit on the other side, the full trio is going to try to take that.
Already on the move right now. I like what we're seeing from Clicks, Yamzo, and Higgs. The success coming out of game 1, I think, has given them all the right in the world to know that, wait a second, we are definitely the strongest team in the vicinity here, pushing these trios out. One thing we did notice too, when that first surge came around, Clicks, Yamzo, and Higgs didn't necessarily have a ton of damage, right? They kind of were forced into a fight. So I don't blame them for trying to get some early action here.
Just kind kind of seeing what's left. Because of that gold, that's what we're going to see. I expect maybe no less than 24 splashes, maybe even more total out of that trio once they do leave the black market, as we tune into Booga threats and a Rapid, and you're seeing how they spread out. And that's one of the things I did want to mention. Seaport, uncontested. It might be hard to get surge, but the way this trio actually plays, they make 3 different surge bases around this POI, so they can cover as much ground as possible, and they focus mainly on this black market, because they know whether you're landing there directly or Mass Meadows or Hopeful Heights, any at least of those 3 teams that land in those locations have to rotate to here, especially if the zone does pull towards the north, so there's a lot of chances for them to start accumulating that surge, and that's been a consistent game plan for them all season long.
Definitely a great game plan all around, and what a W stat. Booga, the most experienced player in this group stage here. You love to see it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now let's get back to some more experienced players. Freeze, TK, and Quanti not looking good for the team right here, as some of the new blood coming up here. Ariel, T-Ram, and Rico are on the hunt right now. They've caught off one of the opponents here. Freeze, though, coming up with no shield. Still looking for the fight, trying to go toe-to-toe here. Has to be careful, though. Gets boxed in, and look at the mechanics out of Freeze. He somehow squeezes his way out of that situation. TK gets control of the other side here. But look, T-Ram, gold splash effect is on. This is going to give them so much advantage here. Still, though, TK putting up a great fight. Into the box they go, though. It's up to TK to find his tag, and he doesn't. T-Ron, Ariel, Recor come away with 3 eliminations there now. And just like that, doesn't matter how good you are, these up-and-coming players are here to make their names heard across the field, and that's exactly what they do right now.
Yeah, this is a team, you know, when it comes to divisional finals in general, they've been almost a mainstay. More times than not, when I'm doing my watch parties, I see this team in finals, and now it's time for them to really put the rest of the lobby on notice. They're not just a team that's taking part in these group stages. They're a team that you have to worry about, because you can only imagine how they were able to open up that fight, because Quanti and his team usually position up there to get surged, so it must have been some well-placed shots, some well-coordinated pushes for them to not only clean up the eliminations, but basically just wipe the team and be able to kind of take that position for themselves. But from one side of the map to the next, you see in this side overall, we saw contested off-spawn fights. We saw third parties move in, and I think as the day goes on, it's going to end up more and more like this, with nobody wanting to risk that early fight, so they end up kind of boxed up, going for surge tags, and in close proximity from one another.
Buttered Frogs having the edge of the zone in play right now is causing this to be a huge attraction point for these rotating teams on the outskirts right now. Some are avoiding it, though, so carelessly. For Casey, Frenzy, and Kill, though, they're attracting another trio here on the eastern side. It's not Aaron and Byla looking to make a mark here, potentially looking for some big damage. Zip holding the high ground here, pushing some of the teams off just outside the shiny shafts. Sleep's and Gloom in a box fight right now. Doesn't even need Zip's support for a second there. They're just holding down the fort.
Yeah, just north of shiny shaft, so the Buzzrise Yapko no longer in the game. It kind of frees up a lot of that space, and where they would typically push teams to try to get surge, you're seeing another team take that place on top of the mountain, just trying to put pressure down below. There is opportunities for 2 teams to third party this. You see them towards the north making their way in this location. They're out in the open on top of the mountain, especially with Zip weak. Could be a good opportunity to strike, but you see how on the other side, Gavin, all in God's hand, and their trio is just kind of box fighting. They're trying to play to bait their opponents into a position that they feel like they have a good upper hand.
Gotta be careful, though, as Vixie and Avenger are sneaking their way up down the outskirts here. God's hands, Gavin and Maji right now looking to disengage off this fight. That was a good call, but no. All in God's hands, ends up getting caught off guard there. Bedmiss comes down for the trio down low. Smart play. However, the attraction is all in here. It's a 3-man dive, and they get it just in time before the pickup gets to come through, and just like that, they clean them up, and damage has been done onto Zip and Gloom. Vixie Avenger have an opportunity here to jump in, but they're still lurking around right now.
Yeah, we've seen this last week. It works if you're really not expecting it, especially with no third party shooting these shots in this direction. So they're hoping when this trio does leave this position, they go through the top side of that box, because everything else is going to be sealed. And there's that opportunity. Did they see him? The cone breaks. The first shot can be fired onto Zip. Vixie opens up, and they need to be able to solidify that first elimination and not let this trio thrive. But he gets the piece, forces him down yet again as a duo to start off this fight monster. They're actually playing it exceptionally well.
I'm not gonna lie, King Vixie's kind of nice with it, showing us what he's made of, and nearly finds the elimination to really set the stage for himself. But they've given Gloom's team a little too much time to go ahead and recalibrate here. I think they recognize they have the numbers advantage too, and up sleeps he's going. Looking to continue to make a name for himself, and this is going way up to the top down. Surely the trio down low is thinking about breaking this one down. You just can't resist at this point, if I had to guess. And they're pushing all the way through, so all attention is on Vixie right now, taking him ever higher. And then he finds Zip in the trade there, so Avenger with the finish and the takedown. It's a 2v2.
Yeah, if Avenger has any HP in his inventory resources, this might be a good chance for him to disengage, but he still has to watch out. He gets taken down by Gloom. This is not necessarily the best position because Vixie goes down as well. Valiant effort from that duo. They're even able to get that elimination onto Zip, but they are able to spot out that third-party team making their way on up. And that third-party team knows this is a good chance for them to fight this 3v2, but Sleps jumps off towards the edge. Hey, if anybody's going to stay alive, Sleps is hoping it's him, but their chase is on. Great damage is there, following up without not skipping a beat, but it gets stolen away. User on the other side steals away the points, even if they're not going to be able to get the loot.
And they're diving in. They're not looking to let this one go away. This is Frogs and the rest of the team coming on in hot right here. And I was about to give a lot of credit to Elush right there. The way that he made the comms to push for high ground, you knew he wasn't going to let that Elim slip away. And all of a sudden it actually does. You can't account for a team lurking this deep in the storm, right? We're still at the shiny shafts, mind you. So many teams rotating in this vicinity here. Getting back over though. Bacon and Vortec, they have to give this one up right now. Seems personal though. Elush wants to fight regardless of what now.
Yeah, they immediately build up. They don't want to give any free and easy shots to that duo down below. This is Bacon, Vortec, and Nerface. A big game in that game number one, really setting themselves up with a good amount of points. A cushion, some would say, just in case things go wrong in any of their future games. But since they were able to get the damage, they were able to get that elimination, they might be looking to disengage. Take the little wins while you can and just continue on with the rest of the game, knowing for somebody that might not be in that same position, getting that Storm Surge, they might be on the lookout and put themselves in a bad position having to fight for it.
Only factor I can think about is maybe they need more damage, right? Because clearly they're sticking around for a reason, and sure, they got the Elim, so they get some points. However, that player was definitely super weak, so not much damage being accumulated there. Noxy, Mason, and Virgo, though, we didn't get to see much of them in game number one, as they only earned 3 points, so pretty tough kickoff for them. However, their chance for redemption is here and now.
Yeah, they land all the way at the side, kind of towards the Kappa Kappa factory, and they just make it their way up the eastern edge of the zone. They kind of beelining their way towards the west, taking it step by step. Liam, broken, 221 above the damage threshold. They have an opportunity with a trio down below, just outside of Mass Meadows. They have to be very, very wary, though, because there's a second trio, a third overall in this fight, rotating outside of Mass Meadows that can potentially be a danger for them.
See what's going on here. Aether, Querzi, and Anonia. Second time now they get their opportunity here on the broadcast. Game one, they want to fight, and then all of a sudden got third party. Now coming into game two, they've made it a little bit further, so some improvements being made. Elim's on the board for them as well. Plenty of damage here, so they're probably thinking, is this team in a desperate situation? Is the surge going to turn on? Or are they going to just key towards us? I like the passive play here to kind of wait this one out, but little do they know, the read is just slightly off. What's going on here? How do you make way with this? I'm looking at 3 teams in a mix here. This is a blender of action, undoubtedly, but Azteca, Jerry's Fire, and Davies Rain from the Crime City underneath the Surge now. Still haven't managed to find themselves an elimination just yet. Splash is coming out. It's all or nothing now.
Yeah, it might not even be a fight they want to take. It's a fight that they have to take because Storm Surge dictating a lot. But great shots by Blake. The rest of the team following up as well. One knock's going to go through. Civ trying to make that decision. Do I heal? Do I fight back? As he takes yet another shot. Storm Surge turns off, but that's not even his worry anymore. As Davies Rain breaking him into the box, he's trying to save his teammate the best they can. Sales, Blake, Sinetto, they need to heal up as well, but they have to make that conscientious decision. Do I let that down go and get revived or keep pressure? And they're going to charge the ladder. Shield trying to break their way into the box, revived and instantly put back down yet again. Blake finding these opportunities to shut down a full trio down below.
It happens, you know, sometimes you reach your limit, and it looks like Davies Rain just reached theirs. The boiling point is here. Sinetto, Blake, and Sales picking up the elims right now, racking up the points, and another team is hopping into the action. They just couldn't wait. They just couldn't wait. It's Flexi's trio here. But no, they don't find the elims they were looking for, so things kind of ease out for a second, and somehow, some way, Azteca manages to just slip under the cracks there, through the cracks, if you will. And he'll live to see another day. But we're a long way from the end game here, so we'll see how things end up playing out for them.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily like this spot to rotate on out. You're going from a high mountain down towards the edge. Krillian trio already positioned there. Civ, a solo that you were just talking about, still trying to land damage across. Even as his solo, there's still a lot of pressure when Storm Surge is active as he tries to break his way in. It's almost all or nothing for him. Storm Surge will take him out, or Blake, Sinetto, and Selves will get credit for that elimination. More points for them as they continue to move up that leaderboard.
Blake, Sinetto, and Sales putting up the elims right now. 5 eliminations now. Definitely in the lead for the lobby here. Really showcasing why they are one of the veteran trios to keep an eye out on. We had to talk about them just in game number 1, and they're making sure we don't forget that they're here to put up a fight indeed. Bucky, Cam, and Okus right now trying to rotate their way to the new zone. Teams on the high ground taking their picks.
Doing good, even with one elimination. You see 1,000 damage above the zone. They're not in the next overall save spot just yet, but they're so close. They can start to build up just a little bit, separate themselves from the low ground, because they know with active Storm Surge like this, even if they don't want to necessarily fight a team, all it takes is a full trio below Surge close enough to try to start the engagement. They see one towards the outside. There's another one slowly but surely. Viper and his trio sneaking up on the side. Again, these are the questions you ask about how you're able to manage your Surge early on the game, because it kind of frees up a lot of what you're able to do if you are well above that threshold. Like Booga, Rapid, and Threats, they can rotate the slow sides, take their time in towards the zone, so that way they can position themselves perfectly how they want for the end game.
Yeah, Booga, Rapid, and Threats is, again, a very interesting trio, because if you look at their history, again, they don't get a lot of eliminations. However, they are consistently finding themselves in positions to earn massive placement points, and you can see this is why. They don't put their games at risk for elims, but they find the damage just through pure veteranship, right? Just understanding of the game here. Even Rapid now thinking about fishing for tags, but it's a mass zone pull here, and look, they're gonna go all the way dead side, making sure they avoid full lines of sights from other opponents, and no one even knows they're there, right? They're just keeping that hidden profile. It is possible even in these types of lobbies. Look at this, not Aaron and Byla center zone in a fight right now.
It's like a difference right now. Booga, Threats, Rapid, taking a leisurely stroll on the other side of the zone. Not too many people they're running into. Then you got Byla, Nut, and Aaron, center zone. Don't really have to rotate too much, but there is going to be a team right next to them. And you can see that they're 361 above the damage threshold. It's not something for them to worry about now, but if not too many teams around them rotating in give them opportunities, that Storm Surge will be something that is in the back of their mind as this game does continue. Luckily, you see it kind of moving down the side of the mountain. So if any team position themselves on that slow side of the zone, that will be an opportunity for them, as Yamzo finds a quick couple of eliminations on the other side by himself too.
A little mean highlight for the books there, just to go ahead and put some respect on it. Yamzo, Clicks, and Higgs fully gathered their bearings here. Seemed like it's a refresh that they absolutely deserved and needed there. Decent amount of material here coming into the end game now, but you have Bugha, Rapid, and Threats, a very scary trio sitting and hovering just above them now. Of all the teams alive right now, this is definitely one of the most experienced, obviously.
And I
Speak
don't
about
think
Bacon
Threads-
and Vortex team, they're still in it.
Yeah, I don't think Threads gets enough credit. If you kind of look at the stats in terms of damage dealt in a lot of these finals appearances, Threads is usually near the top of the leaderboard. Today alone, in game one, he had over 1,100 damage for his team, kind of freeing up a lot of that mobility, the flexibility for them to take these slower rotations towards the outside. And now you see the zone is going to pull back. Higgs, Clicks, Yamzo really kind of led that charge. That was the team down below him. And all they have to do is mirror that rotation, and they have to do it quick enough so none of these other distracted players can see him.
I can only imagine Bugha right now is fuming at the zone pulls opposite every time. But finally now they're going to be forced into using some of that hard-earned material for Virgo, Noxy, and Mason. A little bit of a different situation here. They're kind of sitting on this sandwich of players here, leading at the front side, just waiting for things to go ahead and move in so they can inch their way to the safety here. And I like where they're positioned. They're going to open up some new angles here shortly. Just give it a moment. Clicks, Yamzo, Higgs make it up the mountain. Threats' team makes it up the mountain. And the team on high ground is Ariel, Tira, and Recor. Now, we got to look at this team. This team has a little bit of veteranship in here. I do believe Tara might be Dorito here, who's been to the finals before. But hold up, lose a teammate, might have spoken too soon, jumps down, and what just happened? He takes fall damage. This is not how they expected this to go down. And oh no, the boys see it go down. One's gonna go ahead and get taken out there. It seems like all that's left is to get a full save here, but my gosh, a full turn of events.
Yeah, that's a big now task for them to kind of overcome here. Now they're a duo. They know how dangerous it is. And these zones playing mind games with a lot of the players. Once you see a mountain range in the zone, you have to start to prepare for the worst case scenario that it'll be in the game for the rest of these next couple of zones. It's going to go up, over, down the side of the mountain yet again. For those that are not prepared, better luck to you. But for Rapid, Bugha, and Threats, this just gives them the luxury to be able to watch all these teams down below expend mats, expend resources, and then they can pick them off one by one, just like that. The weak ones will show themselves, and Threats will take advantage.
This is perfect. This is exactly where Threats wants to be. Very rarely have we seen Bugha's team on the high ground, but put them in a group stage like this. You put their experience at the forefront of the lobby, and they should be able to run away with this. They have the material count. They know what to do with this high ground. It's just going to come down to whether or not anyone really wants to be bullish and try to contend them for it, but I doubt it. Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo right now running through their material ever so slightly. Yamzo leading the way. This is a scary rotate cutting through the low ground there, but it ends up working out. Quick layer changes here, put them at the front side. Meanwhile, Sales and Sinetto fall. They're at 7 eliminations in another end game, though. They're going to be happy about the points earned here, undoubtedly, but what more can Blake do? He's going to find Bucky. The little tags there just keep him ever so active, but the zone's bouncing back now.
Hey, it could be a worse situation. He has 19 builds, 3 different splashes. He has the kneecapper, a lot of mobility potential coming out of Blake. He just has to be able to find those sweet spots as Yamzo playing box to box, just buying Higgs and Clicks time to go ahead and disengage from that fight. Put themselves in a much safer position as we're going back over the mountain range yet again. A lot of recycled builds, a lot of chances for players to hide. As you see another one being lost in the backside of the zone. That was Rapid able to find another elimination on the Blake, and this is for them being able to basically shoot down into a barrel.
This is an incredibly difficult spot for Yamzo's team to be in. They're going to force themselves all the way to low ground. Threats, Rapid, and Bugha doing exactly what they need to do. Keeping that pressure on these ultimate layers here that are beneath them. And now they're noticing, wait a second, we're a little too high. This is coming off the mountain now. We have to switch things up and come down a little bit, but notice how cautious they are. Meanwhile, Yamzo, Clicks, and His starting to get desperate for some eliminations here, for a little bit more resources to make this endgame a tad bit easier as things are starting to elevate back up and over. Meanwhile, plenty of space between Threats, Booga, and Rapid and the rest of the trios here. Jumping over Virgo, Noxy, and Mason, though. They're starting to heat up. They're at 6 eliminations right now, potentially pushing for a big double digit, and their loadout's looking relatively respectable.
Yeah, they were able to find that drop on the Neko. Unfortunately, they're not able to pick up the actual elimination and get the loot. They had to leave it to the side. That was Threats who was able to take advantage and find all that. Clicks, Higgs, Yamzo immediately staying under the front side of the zone. As they get contested by Hound, they all turn, they burn, they get a knockdown onto him, and they float towards the backside. They're trying to pass around the Chug, but Clicks was unable to pick it up. He realized Yamzo is in danger. He tries to reunite to be the hero, and now they're feeling all the pressure on the front side of the zone.
He ends up finding another elimination, though, and then falls to the hands of Northern there inside the storm. So Northern clutching up some big points for him, and we're still not even at a top 5 just yet. 6 teams, 5 teams finally remaining now. There it is, Northern looking for another elimination, but falls to the hands of Noxy from the outskirts. Meanwhile, Iamzo is one of the few still in this, takes the zip line to the top, beautifully read in the tag onto another player there, but he falls in the end. Booga still holding on here, somehow loses all control of the game. Where in the world did Hayes and Enough come from? I'm not sure, but they're holding down the fort now.
This is their opportunity. Booga's already healing off to the back. Noxy's a solo who instantly gets taken down. And as soon as tries to slide in, Booga tries to make the play, but it's Hayes, I Am Enough, and their trio that immediately take advantage of that opportunity. I didn't see where they come from either, Monster, but we know where they're going, and that's to the finals.
And it looks like this is a first-time appearance for Enough, Mafia, and Hayes, who pick up Game 2 in a victory royale against the likes of Booga. I don't know what all unfolded for the high ground team pushing down right there, but in the end, it looks like Enough and Hayes did put up the tags that matter there, Jacob. What a game, right? This is what FNCS is all about.
And this is exactly what I'm talking about. We all have our names, our tier 1s, the superstars in the limelight. We all expect them to get these big game wins just like Muzz did and take the rest of the day off. But when this happens, an underdog team rises to the top. It just makes me oh so happy that they have a chance to really prove that they are one of the best against the best in the finals. But that's going to do it for game number 2. Zeke, what do you think of all that action?
Man, game number 2, I really believed there that Booga was gonna win. And I thought, man, this is that time where we just make sure Vivid is wrong. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter because Vivid was still wrong. Just wanted to point that out. Man, congratulations to Enough, Hayes, and I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that third name in this trio. So congratulations. Either way, they're gonna be going to the finals next weekend. That's got to be big. If this is their first time, they've got to just feel over the moon. They've got to be so excited. And now, of course, that next step begins planning, but still, congrats to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions as to exactly where they came from our commentators, and I honestly have the same question, especially when you look at the fact that they ended off that game with 12 eliminations as well. And not just that, but they were landing contested over on Outlaw Oasis. But I'm guessing that maybe having Muzz, Yapko, and Rise, who were landing just to the northeast of them being gone after game 1, gave them a new opportunity to kind of shine in this game, Vivid.
Yeah, talking about shining, right? The format's also getting a chance to kind of shine right here. You were mentioning that they were contested in that first game. They went down 31st spot, right? So it's like, yeah, you can kind of have that bad game, or when you're contested, it can kind of be like, oh, you only really get to play half of the games. Well, if you make the most out of those opportunities, just like this trio did, right? Get off spawn and pick up a victory royale and go straight to finals. A huge game for them. And I have to go ahead and note here, Zeke, that listen, we're actually 2 for 2 on the day so far, with those low ground teams kind of winning over the high ground teams. So might be something that we need to keep our eye on.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting, right? We're pretty used to seeing the other side. It's all about high ground. High ground wins games. High ground wins tournaments. How often have we said that? Low ground, though, looking to make a bit of a statement out of here. So I do like to see that. Now, of course, more happened in that game. But first, we have to go to break. When we return, we'll break more action down. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you after this. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FNCS. Monster's trying to break me. He's not going to do that. Nice try, Monster. In that last game, we saw enough Haze and Mafia get themselves a victory royale in game number 2 and secure that spot going to finals. I'm so sorry I didn't know what the name was. I had to go look it up. You know, just a helpful tip, Mafia. If you want us to celebrate, we'd love to do that, but I have to know what your name is. So just for the future, Mafia would be cool. Out of that game, though, a lot of little developments happened because remember, we're aiming for either a victory royale to qualify to finals, or we want to place consistency in the top 5, right? So there's a couple things we want to discuss with you guys. We want to talk about Booga. We want to talk about Clix and Yamzo. We want to talk about Noxy, Virgo, and Mason. I mean, why don't we just kind of kick things off here? Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs. I mean, they almost had like that high placement, right? They did go down 4th. That's still amazing, but we saw for that in that moment, that like final few moments of the game where Clix kind of stumbled, right? And I love that the casters kind of call it out. He kind of goes for that chug, but then obviously between all the chaos, it's like, I've got to back off. I'm so sorry. And then it kind of falls apart after that. But to kind of see them picking up steam and like, now we're starting to place higher and higher. I love that. I feel like once this trio kind of gets going, it's going to be really difficult to stop them.
Yeah, what I really love about this trio, and I think it happens a lot, especially in these end games for the group stages, is that our trios tend to go down to duos. And obviously in a lot of trios, there is that star competitor, that one player that really kind of can carry the rest of the trio. And I really feel like with this trio right here, any kind of combo of a duo, whether that is Clix and Yamzo live together, Higgs and Yamzo, Higgs and Clix, they can carry it regardless of what position they are put into. And now obviously Clix didn't exactly play out the way that he wanted to, but Yamzo there, of course, with the Click slide going, just tried so hard, almost had that last elimination, but unfortunately missing out, but sitting currently in 4th place. How apropos.
Yeah, and Yamzo having another Yamzo-esque kind of performance, right? I remember kind of labeling him as the MVP of the trio last season. Most eliminations out of everybody kind of playing today, and the most builds placed as well. So doing very, very good in that department. And for this trio, I feel like both of those games that we've seen so far today, they've been pretty similar. I mean, they go ahead and they find that refresh and they drop down like 11th zone to kind of cut off everybody in the front of that moving zone. But for some reason, they can't go ahead and kind of grasp onto that position and actually hold on to kind of fight for the win. But still, regardless, doing very, very well as a trio.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they kind of get probably like 1 or 2 more good games in, they maybe don't need that VR. I'd like to see the VR, but like, yeah, you know, they're still performing well. I like you were saying, I love how Yamzo kind of used that zip line up. Like, Yamzo's that guy that he's like, okay, how do I get from point A to point B? But how do I get there without you realizing I could get there, and kind of like pulling off these like super slick plays? I love Yamzo. Booga, Rapid Threats, also performing really well here in this last game. Again, we thought it was going to go to Booga, right? I thought, okay, Booga's striking. It's time. He's going to try and claim one of these spots. It doesn't quite go that way, but to still make it to as far as 2nd, that's huge for consistency.
Oh yeah, definitely going to be sitting pretty on the leaderboard right now. But what I love to see is the transition from game 1 to game 2. We saw in game 1, Booga, Threats, and Rapid were kind of staying on 2nd height, and there was a moment where I thought they were staying on 2nd height because they potentially wanted to take height, but they never really made that move. However, we can see in game 2 that they are able to make that transition and control high ground. But like you were saying, Zeke, just not exactly the right factors that they needed to be able to carry that into a victory royale.
Poor Rapid. I was like watching this game and I was like, Rapid, what the heck happened? You guys were on height, chilling, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, Rapid's like going down to the storm. Floor got chopped out, hit the little roll into the storm right there. Unfortunate. But hey, listen, me and Kelly were kind of talking about it earlier, right? That damage dealt by Threats, it's usually always up there. He's in 1st right now. He's got over 3,000 damage dealt in just 2 games. Wow. Doing so good. And, you know, listen, they had that high ground right there. Oh, they were going to win. Snuck into that 2nd place still with that clutch up right there. So still doing very, very good in terms of consistency.
Yeah, I obviously, the stress, it just went up like a notch, right? But we still have 3 games. We still have 3 more victory royales, and of course top 5 in consistency, which if you're watching, just look at like top 10, right? As long as they make it in top 10, it's basically top 5. But yeah, I'm super excited to get into more games. The competition is heating up, so now it's on the players. Do we go for it? What do we have to do with only 3 games left to go? It is now time. With that being said, casters, take it away for game number 3.
That's right, Jacob. I mean, look, we are getting there. Just a couple of more opportunities now to make it through. But if nothing else, you see new teams can make their first appearances now, and that's something big to celebrate.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. 56 players to start the day looking for their first FNCS finals. Some of them have already achieved that dream. There's 3 games left though, Monster. Will it be our OGs, our staple names that we know? Will it be some of the new superstars that are rising up the ranks? I'm just excited to see who overall will punch their ticket to the FNCS finals. With game 3 ready, let's see who's next on that list. This is a big moment right here, because this is the halfway point throughout the day overall, game number 3. And this is pivotal for those teams that might not necessarily pick up that game win, because you still have a chance to play through that leaderboard, and you don't want to put yourself into too big of a hole going into game 4 and 5.
Yeah, most definitely, right? There's multiple ways you can make your way through to the finals. Consistency is most definitely an opportunity and an option for most. But hey, at the end of the day, it's so sweet to pick up that big victory. You saw Vivid highlighting just all what unfolded there. If you were curious about how Booga's team managed to give up that high ground spot, it just shows you anything can happen. And that's why you got to be, you know, super dialed into what teams are on the high ground and how things are playing out, because you never really know. Jumping back on over here. Uh-oh, Crime City. The action never ends here. It seems like Frogs, Vortec, and Bacon once again are just back in the mix here, constantly in a bit of a standoff here. Thermite coming out immediately though to go ahead and start cranking open this bank vault here.
Just trying to kind of hunker down that position. They did split Crime City throughout the first couple of games so far, and now they're just putting all their attention. Get the vault, get the gold. There's extra chests. There's a lot of good loot. So if you didn't get the loadout that you wanted right out of the gates, that's going to be a second chance added overall, and it kind of flips the script on to this team of Jers, Rain, and Civ. Do you go and try to contest that, or do you just continue to loot up? There is a lot of loot in Crime City, the black market towards the north, so they don't even necessarily have to engage in order to get the loadout that they need.
Yeah, that is right. And, you know, it's a very common strategy for most teams in these types of lobbies. But Optics, Viper, and Alpha sneaking up. Little angle here onto Rivet. Full shield crack and some white tags. Going to give him all the confidence in the world.
Got that plasma just kind of bursting through on the other side.
Piece.
Optics, yep, getting the piece on the north. Gets the elimination. There's no teammates in sight, so that goes to show to me that Rivet was probably just trying to disengage away from, draw the enemies away from somewhere else, and he's just really trusting in his teammates. You see him there in the distance to slowly but surely, Monster, get that reboot card and give him a second chance, especially with the zone already looking like it's pulling a little bit towards the west.
And there's a couple ways they could do that, so we'll see what route that team ends up taking. So we jump back over to Liam's team here just outside of Demon's Dojo. So just kind of devolving away. There's another squad inching their way over the mountain. You see Liam and company definitely know what's going on there. Jumping back to Maji here. Shiny Shafts. Looking good for this trio right now. Just Vixie left. I was going to say, we saw what Vixie did earlier. Vixie is kind of nice with it. And yeah, he'll fall, but, you know, not without putting his stake in it. Respect to King Vixie. I'm very, very interested in seeing what this guy's going to continue to do in the coming months here. He just keeps working at things.
I honestly thought this was a full trio, but they're going over the reboot. I see in the mini-map, Gloom is just watching underneath. He said, hey, that was my reboot van. Now he has to look elsewhere, hoping to maybe get some surge out of this player out of the sky. That's at least going to help their overall team as he gets the knock onto Gavin. Not really too much of a loss for them. Overall, outside of it being their trio, he really didn't have too much loot, but since he dropped right into the box, they are going to be able to get that revive. So Gloom is just going to keep the pressure up, get what damage he can from Surge, and maybe try to find his way back to his team, because you see there's nobody in sight on that mini-map, so it's a dangerous position if he were to stay there.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I don't know where his team are. Oh, look at this, though. Click's on the hunt right now. Talking about making solo plays. He's kind of leading the charge here as the Amazon Higgs playing catch-up right now. Ooh, scanner coming out. You don't get to see that too often, but seems like something didn't feel right. Clicks backs off here.
Thinking for a moment, interesting to see them the south of Lone Wolf Lair, since typically they loot up their drop spot, they get that vault, they get all the gold, and then make their way up towards Magic Mosses to try to use it to get the splashes out of the black market and either the collateral or the exotic chug chug. And I think they probably said, hey, this might be a good fight, we might be able to take it, but then it's just going to take us longer to go back to our original game plan, back to the script that we wrote up that got us here. And I like what they're doing, realizing what's actually going on and not wanting to stray too far away from what has proven to work for this trio.
And although they haven't gotten a win just yet, they've made all appearances so far into the end game. That is really what matters most right now, sticking true to that consistent game plan. This is arguably the best practice you're going to get in wake of the FNCS finals that's coming up. Mason, Virgo, and Noxie, after that huge endgame appearance, put them up at 75 points. Very respectable performance so far.
And not the best game one, 24th, 0 eliminations. But that last game, third place, 8 eliminations. Really kind of making up for lost time with that 0-point game number 1. And that puts them at least in 12th place in the overall leaderboard, within striking range. If they can have a good last couple of games, if they don't get the win, of course, they can probably finish at the top of the leaderboard. And you see Kin, Snakes, and Mystic just end up in a different exchange, trading some shots. This is at the very southernmost part of the map. And does look like they're just trying to disengage, work their way over towards Mass Meadows, or at least that direction overall, to try to find a safer way to make their way in towards zone. Because if they were to continue going north from here, they have that entire mountain range that they would have to fight up against.
I gotta say, his team needs to catch up. There's another trio rotating in. It was the right call to get out of there. Look at the wide shot here, but Snakes and Kin, they had a chance to disengage. The call was already made, but they kind of greedily stood around fishing for tags, and now I'm sure they're regretting it. It's Anonia, Aether, and Querzy right now who are making a play here for some damage tags.
Oh,
Querzy, though, taking massive damage from the high ground team. They're going to come in there feeling good about the damage, and the shield crack that comes through. Anonia, though, mechanically slips out of there. Pressure's on, though. 1v1 here. Gives up the high ground once again. Opts for the low positioning, swings around, very nicely done. But status is on him, Jacob.
That pressure is just so much. And when this fight started, that third-party team that we saw disengaging, they were just the annoyance, like the fly at the picnic, just buzzing around, landing shots. They didn't necessarily get the elimination, but they made it much harder for that team to survive. They got jumped on by Powerless and Status. And even though they're trying to disengage over on the side, Power's still using this as an opportunity to still accumulate those Storm Surge numbers and then back to the mountain in which they came from. And as long as the zone continues to pull in this favor, that mountain will be one of the most advantageous positions in the map.
Yep. First instance we're seeing of a pretty southern pull right now, but too early to determine or tell where things are going to go. Just outside the Seaport City, Rapid Threats and Booga, sticking to the true and usual. Very consistent, very OG, if you will. Just high ground towers, big holds here, ramping out, right? We've seen Threats kind of poised up like this time and time again. And notice when the surge comes around, they're usually about 1,000 above, right? They really don't have too much problems typically fishing for tags. Threats almost baiting out other teams to just go for that brazen exchange there.
Just looking at Threats, almost averaging 1,500 damage a game. Just put that in perspective. Rapid alone has just shy of 1,500 overall throughout the last 2 games. So Threats really being a driving force of their Storm Surge, which has helped them kind of rotate through those slow sards. Bylot, Aaron, and Nut. Uncontested at Flooded Frogs, and some people might look at that as a blessing, a curse, depending on who your opposition is. Early Storm Surge, always a plus, but for them, 90 points throughout those first 2 games, putting them towards the top of the leaderboard overall. I think started this game 9th on that leaderboard, obviously -2 teams, just a few consistent spots away from actually qualifying for the FNCS finals if it were to end now.
Jumping back with Bucky. Cam and of course Oak is here. A little bit of an exchange happening. Again, this is Threats, Booga, on the other side of that seaport city. Have to be careful how things are going to start moving from here on outwards. The zone's going to end up pulling west, so saw threats already noticing, oh, wait a second, we got to go. So they're sticking to their usual plan of swinging around the outskirts. Big fight happening here. This one's looking a little messy. A lot of material being committed right now. Evan, Zandan, Sandalit down to just 7 mats for Evan here. But the gold rush effect still gives them plenty of opportunity, plenty of big plays to make here. Evan losing track though of the opponents, not too sure where they are.
Almost feels like the lack of loot has them feel pressured to have to make a play. This is the only way they're going to get mats in their eyes. And on the other side, they feel it and they're ready to kind of fight back. Let them make a mistake, land a good shot, and then you can use that as a green light to go. So as of now, they know they don't have the elevation advantage. They're forced to kind of converge into this box until they see an opportunity or a mistake made from the other side. As you see some third-party shots starting to bring in over on in the distance. Some of those are going to connect on the Zonda. And even though that's not a lot of damage, that could be the difference.
Yeah, this is not going to go very well if they can't find elimination here. Either that or disengage now while you have time to go farm.
Yeah,
because
I agree with
either way, they've gotten the damage, but man, no max to play mid-game is about the worst position you can be in. So sometimes it's okay to just call it. Oh, wait a second. Another team starting a third party here, looking to break things out. Fraggy AK is like, nope, I'm going to go ahead and maintain the structure here. And now it's causing them more material than they would like.
Such a tough situation because we're seeing both sides just a huge lack of resources overall. And even if they survive, as the game continues on, it almost looks like they're in the center of zone. So more and more teams will look at this place as the place to be, but he runs into one. Sam's going to be the first one going down. That opens up that chance for them to take a 3v2 and continues to fire off. The smoke going down to keep them alive with the men miss, but it's causing a little bit of confusion. They don't know exactly where to go, and the full trio will be able to stay alive, pick up a second elimination onto Evan as well as they rip him to shreds.
You know, I don't blame the team jumping in, but there were definitely other options there. Clearly, Flexi, Fraggy, and Zilix seem to have had the advantage, you know, all the way through since the early moments of this battle, but it is what it is. You make your bed. Now you got to lay in it. Fraggy, Zilix, and Flexi still have a whole game in front of them as well. They got to get going and get to replenishing their material counts as well. Still have the river there to play off of, so shouldn't be too bad. Fergo, Nox, and Mason know when to disengage, and this is very reminiscent of a more veteran move here. And you're really seeing the you know, two sides of the coin, if you will.
Yeah, they know it's like high chance the zone is centering up or pulling in one direction. So being on the side of that mountain's all fine and dandy. Early game, trying to get surge. But you don't want to be stuck on the top of that mountain with a max pull, because even if you do have the launch pad, that leaves you kind of susceptible to taking shots along the path. So I do like what's on the mind right now for Virgo, Noxie, Mason. Rotate early, beat a lot of these other teams to the punch. And because they're rotating underground, they're relatively safe every step of this way for a free rotation to where they need to be.
Seeing a lot of good things out of Hound, Carillion, and Northern's team today. One of the few teams on the lobby that have experienced their fair share of finals. They've stepped foot in the arena a couple times before. What's the situation right here? So they're southeast of the zone, one of the few teams down here making a dead side rotate, and they have just enough damage to maintain their way through this area. That's not the most comfortable amount of damage threshold, so they will have to likely get into a fight here. Little do they know, though, they're rotating right into Listen, who's kind of out of position for his team. Well, look at this fight here, Jacob. Click Siamzo and Hayes getting active right now.
Yeah, a good portion of this lobby forced to rotate south. Whether you landed with feed, magic monsters, flooded frogs, you might find yourself rotating through this area of Crime City, especially since there is a black market there if you do possess some of that gold to replenish what you might have lost. As Clicks, Yamzo, and Higgs, they know with as much action as going on, not to get too antsy. Take your time, let your opponents make the mistakes, or let those chances come to you. They do have the elevation overall to kind of spot not necessarily just the teams that are right below them, but every team that they're gonna have to rotate into here in a few seconds.
Yeah, it's one of the worst things to happen too is when you have 2 trios below you. And of course, these are the teams that land at the Crime City, so very familiar locations for these opponents. Higgsy Yamzo playing the high ground right now, fishing for tags. Clicks watching the low ground, making sure the coast is clear. But how much longer are they going to mess around in this zone here? Seems like that question is about to be answered. They're about to make a move here shortly. But the Surge shoots the warning out, so everyone knows now what exactly is at stake here. Clicks Yamzo, Higgs seem to be content with their damage. They're gone.
Yeah, it almost looks like they were lurking for elimination. As soon as the zone pulled towards the south, might have been the Yamzo, somebody made that call and said, look, we gotta go. We can get our damage. We can get eliminations later, especially with how quick they're making that first rotation. A Civ, Rain, Airs just trying to push their way into the box. They know one's weak on the other side. The Medmid smoke is down, so a little bit of confusion. They might not know exactly where they're at as they jump in and outside of the box, end up taking a big shot. Civ just taking a little bit more than he can handle that situation, but it's a beautiful sacrifice because they were able to separate Jake down below, pick up the first of 3 eliminations.
Yeah, that med miss, double-edged sword, right? Gives you, of course, those quick heals. However, it's such a distraction. All that mist making it hard to see through, almost dual-purposing as a mini smoke bomb, if you will. But this is the Crime City vets here. Davies, Rain, Jerry's Fire, and Aztec, a Civ coming out on top, making good work of the team here and finding the damage that they needed. But the rotate, right? So now it's time to go here. Take a look at the perspective. So Dog had the build open and Davies just wasted no time there.
Scuffed his new kicks right there with that shot to get him down, and then just immediately the pressure from below and on top. And you're seeing a lot of these teams late to rotate off the side of these mountains, not finding the easiest way down. Blake is going to get eliminated overall. And you see they're 32 above the damage threshold and continuously falling. And now they find themselves below overall. So as a duo, this is not going to be the easiest road, but hopefully they can use their experience to help them out as they jump onto one, miss that first shot, but they have him separated into a 1v1 towards the top. Sales, if he has the confidence, he could try to take it.
Oh, they have to take it. He's 19 below. This is a very important situation that Sales has now found himself in, but no. Blake is down, so wait a second. It's just Sinetto and Sales, actually. I misread the situation. I thought at least they had the whole trio, but things seem to be crumbling here right before their eyes. And now even the low ground team opting to take shots up top. They might need some more damage, too.
Let's say the lucky thing they do have going for them right now is they position themselves on the side of the zone or the middle overall, so they know that whole eastern side is going to open up and they don't even have to focus on it for the next couple of minutes because they know nobody's going to be there. They can set their eyes on Canyons Crossing and the whole east or western side of the map where they know teams will have to dip into low elevation territory in order to get across that open land. Otherwise, they're just going to be stacked on the north and the south side of the zone. Either way, that could be a blessing for Sinetto and Sales to try to get some shots on any suspecting players.
Yeah, these tags are very important right now. They're fighting their way out of a desperate situation, a difficult situation, but not an impossible one for them to turn around here. Meanwhile, Carillion just sits down broken, then a 169 onto the teammate there. Liam goes down, and then another one. So a 3-piece chicken nugget to go for Carillion, Northern, and Hound here, putting them on the map big time right now. 430 damage above. Just do the math. That was the whole team's damage and health HP put into the count there. Very nice for them. Things went from worse to just bad, right? It's not too bad now.
Yeah, it's only a matter of how many, I guess, healing resources they have, whether it's big pots, minis, just HP for them to kind of recuperate. They got themselves a good amount of elevation on that south side of the zone, and it's going to pull in their favor. So they're not going to have to do much. Dozier, Natmos, Aiden, they're the ones that have a long road ahead of them as a team trying to fight. They get that first down onto Flexi, and the second elimination, and since it was only a duo still alive, they're all sent back to the lobby.
Yeah, we knew Flexi's Deluxe's team was spending a little too much time in the zone, and you can tell how desperate they were to just try to find some positioning there, but one bad rotate's all it takes. Too soon. and all of a sudden you're just caught out just like that. Natmos, you can see from his angle, you just kind of get caught in this web. Gloom's team going for a little bit of the mid-ground positioning here, but this is some really awkward terrain to mess with. We're going up this very steep mountain here, Jacob. Notice Click, Yamzo, and Higgs also recognizing danger of staying in the low ground, right? They're going to start making their way up to this kind of middling position, but not overcommitting because it can pull either way. So smart decision, I think, to play this general area. However, it's a decision nonetheless. You're going to have to live with it. They're 50 below, though. So Clixiamzo and Higgs don't have the damage they need just yet.
Yeah, they're looking off towards the side. They saw they could take a box-to-box fight with a pre-edit towards the top, but they said, wait, just give us a second. Yamzo said, look off towards this edge, and you see how many players are having to rotate off that Canyon Crossing Mountain in their direction. So not only are they going to be able to find Surge, they get an elimination, and now they give themselves options, a little bit of flexibility that Sales and Sinetto do not have. But I will say, from what we saw them before till now, they've increased their elevation up the side of that mountain tenfold. They just need to figure out where they're going to get a damage. 124, that's a good amount below the Storm Surge, but in the next zone, it's going to get exponentially worse if they don't find the damage right now.
And just 39 bullets, right? So notice Sales is really trying to be,
no, it gets worse.
You know, strategic, if you will, with what's left of his ammunition, but he really doesn't have that luxury to just fire at boxes, so it's going to be all the more harder for them to get actual tags. There it is. Surge turns on, and now he's going to find that box that's open. It's weakened, but no, the edit already came through. It's closed, and it's just a matter of moments now. Snakes and team see what's going on here. They pick up the elimination, and Sinetto will fall now.
It's a few situations like that we've seen when you're a player, a duo, or even a full trio below the damage threshold on Surge. They have to stray away from their overall game plan and get almost into the very next fight that they see. And I've already seen 2 teams go down because of that top of the mountain status, power, listen. They have all the time in the world to make the way down this side of the mountain. They can recycle a lot of their build. They just need to be very, very cautious of anybody waiting to do the exact same thing. Quanti, Freeze. They might be a duo, but that's a duo that you have to be wary of because they can turn things around at a moment's notice.
And look, they're being very cautious of that team there, but I wonder if they're too early for the rotate right now. Now they're going to allow that team to build on top of them, so we'll see. Can't catch too much tunnel vision here. Clixiamzo and Higgs continuing to fight and drop teams in the mid-ground. Now jumping up to 7 eliminations. They had no elims coming into this end game here, and all of a sudden they are just putting up the numbers here as we expect of them. And most importantly, so much material to work with when you need it most here.
You gotta give Yamzo credit, the full trio credit, just constantly elevating themselves higher and higher. And they're being very proactive. Before the zone actually pulls over the top of the mountain, they wanted to increase their positioning, make it a little bit easier for them to get up the side of the mountain while every other team at this moment is trying to battle their way up. Bugha, rapid threats because of their split decision early on in this game to accumulate surge from different boxes. They're 275 above the damage threshold, which means they can just focus on rotating from point A to point B.
Even Bucky, Cam, and Okus here, again, very wisely positioned here above the rest. Now, they don't have a lot of material. However, they've already gotten up and over the mountain, right? So very few can read these zones well as some of the vets. They know exactly where they need to be, but this great positioning has cost them plenty of damage now, so they will have to work for a refresh here. Unfortunately, it's going to be likely Bugha's team that they're going to end up jumping in on. The options are pretty limited at this point here. High ground and low ground, but Bugha's team strikes first, and Bucky loses Cam here in the mix. Finds some exchange tags there, though. Keeps him at least in the game for now, but talk about timing there.
Yeah, Cam just lost focus for a second, went to look at high ground. They immediately pushed their way in, got the down. Now Threats is struggling to find his way back, but the endless smoke is going to grant him a few extra time, but it's Booga that takes the sacrifice to keep Threats into the game, and he reunited at the front side of the zone with Rapid. They might just be a duo monster, but the duo I feel like can make things work as Bucky makes his way down below. Okus is there on his side. They have 4 eliminations. They have 2 different chug chugs to try to get the HP and shield up, but they have so many players down and around him.
I respect it. Bucky keeping the dream alive for the team right now, as is Threats here in the mid ground, and Threats still fighting his way through with Rapid here, rotating as the duo attacks coming in from the high ground. So Power, Listen, and Status continue to maintain the king positioning over the lobby. They have to come down, though. They're taking that unwanted damage from the storm here, so Status hesitant to make the drop down, but it is inevitable. Meanwhile, Rapids on the ultimate low, out of mats here, has to play for a refresh. He finds some mats here at the edge of Storm. It's 2 players there, but he's out of mats. He's caught in a bit of a back and forth scenario there, but a down body's gonna be a little bit of a boon for him. There goes a couple of mats to work with. Can't even find Threats in all of this here. I'm not even sure what Threats is myself. Meanwhile, Bucky and Oak is still alive right now, holding on desperately. No health to work with here, Jacob.
Threats finding an elimination, but he got separated too far from Rapid as Bucky, Okus, they're just staying in the middle. A fight for high ground is going to break out. Noxie's the only one standing. Virgo, Mason, they had to drop down low. Maybe they're out of builds, but listen, Power, Status, 2 of these 3 players qualified for their first major finals last season. They're looking for a repeat, but they just get knocked into the backside of zone. Listen, that's a double. Bucky's still fighting it out, trying to shoot up, and he gets another elimination on the Status. The tables have turned. Bucky fans are on the edge of their seats right now.
Bucky's turning up here and finding the tags that matter most. Okus is still alive too. He's got the firepower to work with, but no more mats to work with here. It's gonna come down to it, but a tag from behind will send him back to the lobby. In valiant effort though, it's a duo up on height, a trio on the low. The low ground teams have been finding themselves winning all day long, but Natmos has to time this perfectly. He has to play it smart, utilize the zone to his advantage. Don't let this team go up. Great tags here, and he is fighting his way through straight to the finals if he can get the refresh here. There it is, the mats to keep him in the game. The full finishes, the siphons are keeping him alive in the storm here, and he could be sending himself all the way through, and he does it in the end.
That's 9 eliminations by himself. 12 eliminations for the team overall. Dozier, Natmos, and Aiden have now just achieved FNCS finals with a big game win, and as a trio, that will mark their 13th finals appearance in their careers.
Respectable plays all the way through to the very end, and honestly, we couldn't have counted them out ourselves. We didn't know what was going on there. High ground was a fight for it. Mid ground had battles, and then you throw in the mountain in the mix, making it all the more difficult here for game number 3. Take a look at this one more time. You have to give this guy all the respect in the world. Natmos putting up the shots, and a 12 elimination victory royale will send them through coming out of game number 3. And who better, of course, to break it down than our analyst over at the desk.
Congratulations to the trio. I love right there at the end, right there, little quick reload to the shotgun. Like, hold on, just one moment, hold on. Okay, all right, I'm going to the finals. Nice try though. Man, a 12 elimination VR here at the halfway point. You know they've got to be going crazy to just watch in that moment. It's like, just think about you being Natmos' teammate, right? Just be like, okay, that's 1, that's 2. You're still going. You're crazy. You're cracked. We're in finals.
I mean, and to look at actually their history of the play-ins, they barely scraped by. I think they were 91st overall in the play-ins. So to go from almost not even making it into the group stages to now punching your ticket to the Major 2 finals, that's got to feel good, Vivid.
Yeah, I mean, flipping the script on us as well, winning from the high gun, winning a 2v3 situation, incredible stuff right there. And speaking about scripts, why don't we just go ahead and read off like what I said after game number 2 with the mountain zones, right? Pulling right over the mountain, pulling then right off of it, making it so difficult for most of our teams to actually get a hold of some mats, you know, a little bit of safe ground during the entirety of this game. But for Natmos, Dozier, and Aiden, they were able to be the ones that came out on top. Incredible stuff from this trio.
It's, you know, a bit interesting. We were watching so many trios, but actually not able to watch this trio at all. And it kind of just goes to show you that although there might be a lot of chaos going on in the low ground, you're able to grab a bunch of eliminations. If you stay on this kind of second low ground, you're kind of getting a benefit of both staying low, but also staying a little high as well. And clearly that worked out for them, getting 12 eliminations, 9 just on that alone. That's got to be a good momentum going into the finals next week.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Speaking about momentum, right? Kind of the game-winning moment for them is when that higher ground chaos kind of ensued. Power, Listen, and Status were the ones controlling it for most of that game. But because of how that zone pulled off the mountain, they weren't able to actually get close to anybody, not able to find any of those refreshes. They were an easy one to kind of kick off of the high ground right there, pick up the high ground and pick up the win.
That's right. I love to see it. Of course, there's a couple things we want to highlight from that game, but first, a quick break. When we return, we'll break it all down for you. Stay tuned.
If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying that I fall. Through shadows, been burning through these battles. No weakness in my body, need to know you better ask somebody. Already, I consume the petty, it's plenty. I leave a penny for thoughts about how I'm living. Ay, turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, it's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, me off the top, no way. I came and called my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow, where you supposed to go? Posted on the low, can't lose and find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, I get it, they love my whole steady. Vegas don't listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Go riders off my body, cut them off, they yak and sloppy. Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes are winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, it's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. Zone, the track going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No.
I want to make it known. I like Vivid. He's cool. All right. Welcome back to the FNCS. 2 games left to go. Don't shake your head, Kelly.
What are you-
Welcome back to the FNCS. Dolzer, Natmos, and Aiden got themselves a 12 elim victory royale in the last game. In case maybe you're just tuning in, welcome. We're super glad you're here. In that last game, okay, so, you know, there's like this item called the kneecapper.
Yeah.
And, you know, it could save you from fall damage if
It can.
used correctly.
Okay.
There was something that happened in this last game with clicks.
I'm watching.
Go ahead and just watch this out.
Okay.
So, yeah, this kneecapper is supposed to save you, but not everyone always uses it that way, unfortunately.
Man, Zeke, you need to make your way over to the analyst role right now because that was quite the breakdown. Eamzo, Higgs, and Clicks, listen, they're doing an incredible job, but sometimes, Vivid, it doesn't go the way that you want. And you actually broke down the kneecapper last week for Group 1, so what exactly do you think happened here?
I actually haven't seen this yet, so I'm paying close attention to what actually happened to the trio here. Clicks, Higgs, and Eamzo. Kelly was kind of watching the game, right? And yeah, I think the moment's going to be right now. Yeah. As you can see. Yep. There's Eamzo's POV. Here we go with Clicks.
Ooh. He didn't sprint. He didn't.
Oh, the whole trio within like a second of each other. It's completely.
And we're laughing.
7th elims though. I mean, hey, listen, it could have been worse. Could have been worse.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been worse. It could have been worse, Kelly.
It's, I think when it comes down to the end games, especially in these group stages, that there's a lot of things that you just, we're watching it again, great. You can only do so much with especially this new mobility that's been added to Fortnite a few seasons ago. You know, there's little things that happen sometimes. Zeke, this isn't something that we should really dwell on.
That's right. That's fair, right? It was a very chaotic end zone. And of course, these mountain zones have been brutal. All right, I think we can all agree they have been very brutal. But as we turn our attention here to the standings, remember, we're trying to end the day with a victory royale or to end. Basically, just imagine that top 10 right now, right? From that last game, we had a big game also from Booga, Rapid, and Threats, who showed up pretty big. We've seen them now that they've had 3 games, a 5th place, a 2nd place, and now a 6th place. So they're playing within that top 10, and I really like that consistency. I do feel like we haven't seen the team's full potential yet. It almost feels like in some ways they're kind of holding back. I don't know if I'm maybe just overthinking that.
No, that seems to be the thought process, especially whenever Booga is in a team, whether that's a trio or duo, where people kind of think, they're underperforming. But then you look actually at their finals performances, and they are constantly in the top 10, which is not an easy feat, especially in North America Central. Honestly, a similar game style of what we saw from game 1, which is them playing that second height, kind of trying to find a good opportunity to take height. But when Bucky's trio jumps in there in that moment, there's only so much you can do to recover.
Yeah, I mean, we got to go ahead and mention Bucky before we jump into the game number 4 right there. Incredible performance out of him, picking up that elimination onto Booga, actually to continue their game. Elsewise, he was looking like he had 0 materials. Great clutch from Bucky there.
That was one of those, oh my God moments. Of course, you couldn't hear it for me, but that's how I felt in the moment. Yeah, I mean, Bucky just went absolutely crazy, chasing down the eliminations. Again, though, Father Mountain, he always takes his toll. But again, I love that you call out, Vivid. The fact that he did eliminate Booga, that's big, right? Especially for him. Obviously not on the side of Booga, that's bad. But for Bucky to kind of really start to hit that momentum again, we're trying to pick up, we're trying to make things happen. We only have 2 games left to go, guys. My stress levels are through the roof.
Yeah, I could probably feel the same way for a lot of our other trios right now, knowing that this is pretty much it. 2 more games, or they have to go through that last chance qualifier where only 3 trios move through. They don't want to have to go in through that, Zeke. This is it. 2 more games to go.
Oh, man. Monster D-Face, Jacob PR, find your seats on the battle bus. Give us that bird's eye view. Over to you.
Yeah, that's right. I'm ready for the action. Game 4 now, starting to heat things up here. 3 teams have punched their way straight through to the finals, and things are really starting to look interesting. I want to know who is going to take the blame for Clix' team hitting that floorboard. We'll just have to see, though, as we're jumping in for game number 4.
Game number 4, Monster, and this is really where you kind of look at that leaderboard. If it were the line, it is 127 points as it stands. Carillion Northern and Hound are going to be the ones kind of holding on, see if they can make themselves have exponentially better games so they can push themselves into the bubble and really not have to worry about it. Everywhere else on the map, some spots have opened up throughout the first 3 games, and you're seeing things continue to calm down over here towards Demons Jojo, giving Jesse, Jerem, Liam, and Ayo Cod a chance to really loot up and think about their strategy going into this game.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that now if you're finding yourself around those 40, 50 points, I mean, you are in about the most desperate situation of anyone in the game who's going to be dependent on that victory royale, unless you make two masterful games out of these last couple opportunities. But for folks like this team here, they have everything it takes so far to be in that consistent conversation for the remaining spots. What do you think the point cutoffs is going to be? Around 180, 200? How far do you think we got to take it?
I think around like 180. That's been kind of the lowest so far for the most part that it has been. So I would think 180, 200, that should be your goal. And they already got a first knock in this situation. So a 3v2, something that's been splitting up, and you see the scanner going down. All the positions are going to be revealed. It's all about how Bacon, Nerface are going to be able to continue to try to push that fight. As you jump on over Clicks, Yamzo, Higgs, kind of business as usual for them. Only one of them is going to focus on breaking open the vault. The other two are going to loot the outskirts of Lone Wolf Lair, get shots where possible, but really take note of teams that might be walking towards that black market, because those are the ones they really have to worry about most.
It's always those teams that are lurking in the area. All in God's hands. Maji and Gavin continuing the Shiny Shafts fight. This is a recurring battle happening here. Vixie's going to be the first to fall. Usually he's the one to go down. We've seen so far him being the clutch factor, but Psalm 28-7 is going to fall there as well. Ian, all in God's hands. Just really taking work of these teams here.
Rapid Booga threats. Uncontested over here towards Seaport, game after game after game. There's a lot of loot over towards Seaport, and it's kind of crammed in these buildings, so you can't necessarily easily shoot for Surge until you're looted up and ready to go. It's going to primarily be up to threats, up to Rapid, trying to get that full loadout as fast as possible, and then try to stretch themselves outward on the surrounding lands. We've seen it throughout these couple of games. They usually set up 2-3 different Surge towers, and that's how they're accumulating as much Surge as they are in these early games to allow them to make those slower rotates that we've seen in 3, honestly, realistically, games so far.
Big games, consistent games, slow and steady for sure, but not out of the woods just yet. Gotta keep the pace going here. I'd argue this is the scariest spot to be in, right? Or right, you're at right like 130. You're like, dude, you know, we're just getting points, you know.
Yep.
In order to keep it up, clearly not everything's going so perfectly round after round. But again, this team is lucky that Muzz's team qualified out the gate, right? Like things just started to change for Noxie's trio, kind of moving afterwards, because they're one of the teams on this kind of western border. Talking about that, Snakes, Kin, and Mystic are as well, and they seem to really enjoy getting third-partied here. They're going right back to this area where they got into this huge fight just last round. And it seems like an ever-evolving story here. Another set of players coming in. I'd assume that's Listen, status, and power there, but we'll see.
Yeah, this has kind of been a hot spot for a lot of our teams that are kind of landing on that mountain just south of it as well. Just kind of peek on over, get Surge where you can. One of them is going to already go down. Power's going to try to start the disengagement towards the outside. Shogun's Solitude. That's where they know his solo's already there. And just in the nick of time, another trio moving up, firing some shots onto Polar, taking his shield down. Listen as well. And they're going to see that as a green light. They don't even know they're chasing a solo. They just see a weak team that they put damage on, that they could try to fight isolated so far away from everybody else on the map.
Ooh, like the aggression here. Listen, taking a lot of damage though, and the Storm's gonna continue to put the pressure on. He's gotta get some splashes off, but first needs to win the tags. He gets one, but the follow-up was too strong. It's up to status now. Let's go ahead and buy some time for Powers on the other side of the wall. King's just gonna back out, calling for the disengage. Okay, so they're just gonna take their L.
Uh-oh. I briefly saw for a short moment they're rotating into a potential third party up the side of that mountain. When you make this much noise, because remember, it was more than just these two teams fighting. It was originally Power Status and Listen fighting in third, but everybody really getting caught off guard. You're thinking it's slowing down over towards Demon's Dojo. All it takes is one hidden moment from Riven, a Mini, and regular Bard to go ahead and cut them off, really catch them off guard, and solidify those key eliminations, making it go down to their 5th and final game.
Right into the hands here of Vivid, Zip, and Gloom, though, just waiting for the opportunity, and there it is. They're going to catch their 2 eliminations. It makes you wonder, you know, I get why they wanted to pull out of that fight, but their teammate was down. They just left him. All right, they just said, hey, buddy, you're on your own. We're just going to go and try to run this one out, and you can see what happens here. They end up earning no points now in this game. That's going to be a major setback for Snakes and team. They're going to be dependent now on a Game 5 victory royale, and hey, at least the format allows you to still have hope in every single game.
And this is where, you know, with the time that they're using, watch a couple of the teams, figure out what's working for some. How do you change up the game? But the action, this game is just one fight after the next. Byla loses Aaron, so it's really going to be up to him and Nut to try to take down this team. But the piece control is already there. Bylaw's just struggling to try to find his way out. Luckily for him, the aggression just slows down, and Nut just able to alleviate some of the pressure. Great shot onto one, and they get that elimination quickly cleaned up, bringing it to a 2v1 situation. So far isolated. You might see one player in the minimap towards Whiffy Warp, but I don't think there's going to be any time for them to move on over. As with Byla, Casey, both of them go down, and it's going to be a double revive coming out from both of these individuals.
Yeah, but look at this. They have the chug, right? They can bounce back a lot faster, it looks like, than Kale's team here. And talk about a very important battle. They're at 108 points here. They are very much in the conversation for a top 10 finish here today if they do not pull a victory royale. So this is all the more of an important situation for them to try to find their way out of at this point. They already have the reboot card. It might just be time to disengage.
Yeah, I know it's not something that we talked about much, but that last chance qualifier, only 3 teams are going to be making out of there, advancing to the finals. Hey, if they actually do go for a reboot, this could be some free and early surge for Byla. If Nut actually does get the elimination, that's Siphon, that's HP, keeping him in this situation just a little bit longer, but it is going to be a little bit of bait. A fake is what they're trying to go out, and immediately everybody's moving up. Byla's just trying to separate and buy some time, and he's built a cover right now. If that was Aaron that actually did get back up in this situation, he has at least somewhere to land, but it's going to be short-lived. They immediately bring it down to a 2v2, and Casey just needs to buy time here. Let the Siphon go through, but I'm not sure he's going to be given that opportunity.
Now he's going to be able to get the save here, it looks like. But wait a second. Good cancel comes through. I respect the play, though. Leaving Byla behind and try to find the lurking shot. But now it forces him kind of into burning all these material here. There it is. The save comes through. Hey, 3's better than 2. That's for sure. We know that. But how much resources have they spent here? Look, Kale's now down to no mats. Still has a little bit of heals to work with, though.
The lack of HP. Oh, he hasn't scared Byla. Yep, he saw him on the other side, creeped the angle, took down Kale. Another elimination for them. And they're already jumping onto that third. Casey down below, and he stood no chance. He had no extra HP. It's basically an all or nothing against Nut, who snapped his fingers, made him disappear back to the lobby. And just another team that is on the list that goes down to game number 5, all or nothing situation.
What's happening here? Maniac. Just a rat in his little home here, trying to get smoked out. There's 3 players to the north. Here's how that all played out. Oh, he puts up a fight, though, before getting put into this solo situation. Jumping back over to Bucky Cam and Okus here. Just a repeat of the previous rounds, playing for Surge tags here at the Seaport City. Bucky really showed up last game. 123 points based off of the fact that he managed to pull not only a couple of important eliminations, but a lot of placement points there to really make the best of that last end game. But just like Byla's team, they have to stay in the running here. It's extremely competitive on the consistency point leaderboard.
They're only 4 points. To start this game, they're only 4 points from being that team that's on the bubble. But right now, from the outside looking in, They just need to continue their consistent games, build off of that confidence and momentum of that last as Clix, Higgs, and Yamzo find themselves parallel rotating to another one of these teams all the way towards the north from Magic Moss's Pump Power, even just under Flooded Frogs. That's a lot of the space that Clix, Higgs, and Yamzo use to try to find early damage, whether they're going for those box fights or disengaging altogether. And it already seems that they got what they wanted out of that position. And with the zones, a few times already today, moving towards the south, they're trying to be very, very proactive and beat a lot of these teams to the punch, and that's where they're going to get their surge this game.
Puka going back to his tower, trying to see if he can find more surge tags themselves here. Has to play a pickup. Rapid seemingly taken down here. That's part of the risk that you take with how they play the Seaport City, right? They end up spreading out, trying to secure some land mass.
Just in time, too, because you see all these teams rotating, you know, west of Seaport City, from the north, moving south. Clix's team's going to be another one of those teams rotating in. So if they would have waited just a little bit longer, that would have been a potential risk, because Rapid, yeah, he might have been rebooted, but he could have easily been targeted, dropped down yet again. Bacon, Vortec, Nerface from Crime City. They got that first and early elimination, and judging now, they have 3 overall. They might have just wiped Crime City, using that to get their early Storm Surge, and now they have the luxury to kind of rotate. Yes, they're in zone, but they have a lot of space where they don't or aren't going to run into a team, or at least anytime soon. Try to take maybe this western rotate, maybe get in just north of Mass Meadows and kind of beeline it the rest of the way there.
Nice little find here. Couple gold splashes. And they're cat material too, so their strategy seemingly coming together here. The Crime City now to the safety of the zone. Keep close tabs on them. We get to jump in with Sonetto, Blake, and Sales. It's kind of been like a mixy performance all in all from them. There are times when they're in great positions and times like now where they're really wearing the damage of the early game. 108 points though still puts them in the conversation at the moment. I like this. They're playing for the medallion.
Just play a little slow, play a little steady. Just get a little bit of resources at a time. As you see them just trying to looten up the armored van that is going to be left behind. And without a teammate, they're probably trying to see where they can try to get a reboot back on up over towards Pump Power. That's going to be the first place I'd look, but the fight's already breaking down. Yamzo, Higgs, Clix. There's a whole nother trio down below, and they are in the driver's seat with full control over this fight, basically converging and forcing them onto that low ground.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. There's a lot of teams in the vicinity. I think they recognize that as well. They had to have seen one of the trios rotating in from the distance, and they're just beelining their way out of here. But they know it or not, it's probably the best decision now. They're only at 149 points, so if they make an end game here, they should be all but qualified. However, there is still a game worth of end games in front of them that they need to get through first in order to feel absolutely confident of their ticket to the finals being punched in and secured. Meanwhile, Maniac picks up one of his 2 teammates that were downed. And this is the trio that nearly won the last game. Fuse, Thetic, and Maniac actually coincidentally got the Elim credits for Clix and his entire trio, Higgs and Yamzo, off the fall damage. So the tick there must have put a little bit of damage in on them.
Seeing a lot of teams just slow to rotate out of the zone overall, especially since it continues to move further and further towards the south. As soon as it looks like Aaron, Nut, and Bila were going to make it towards the edge, it pulls further and further out. There is going to be one team nearby, but a lot of them might be forced to kind of focus on the rotation. And you can see in their inventory, 2 out of the 3 members of this team do not have any of your normal mobility, no kneecap or no gauntlets. All they're going to be able to have is those splashes, which actually burst the speed, but you do typically want to save those to later in the game, those moving zones, especially with the lack of mobility. So it's going to be a rough road for them, but if they can make it to the zone with the resources that they have, I think they'll be A-okay.
TK freezing Quanti right now on the move here. A couple attacks coming in, and whoa. freeze with the counter fire, but so many angles, multiple trios with vision lines on them. Ends up costing them a fair bit. That's going to kill their momentum for sure. Oh, and that makes sense. One of the teams is, of course, Booga on the high ground there. You have to assume it's likely Okis or someone on the nearby side. They're all in this general area for their draw spots, but wait a second. We knew Clicks, Higgs, and Iamzo were making a smart rotate before, but who do they rotate into? That's costing them all of this. It's Elution, the trio, but Iamzo clutching up alongside Higgs. It seems like Higgs might have been the decision maker there.
Really found that first elimination, separated from the team. Even though they're moving further and further back to the zone, they have the Chug Jug, the exotic one, so it's 400 overall instead of 2. They have the extra splashes, and Clicks adds another elimination to the list of things that they have, and they get a little bit more on that Chug Jug medkits as well. They just got to pick and choose what they want, as every other team around them just disperses like cockroaches when you turn the light on, just trying to find their way to safety. And with the zone pulling forward, it doesn't pull too far away from Higgs, Iamzo, and Clicks. It actually pulls to where they can position themselves in zone, wait for it to open up, so they get their pick of the litter of where they want to be.
Yeah, just a short ride to the safety here, and the zone's going to be sliding their way, so this is pretty nice. Hot on the press, though. You have Viper and Optics. What are they going to do? Picking up a med miss from the down body, so just snaking their way through what's left of the loot there. Meanwhile, at the Seaport City, the home of Booga, who has the prime real estate, the penthouse up top here. All eyes on the scene for Freeze, TK, and Quanti, though. They've snuck their way into this great positioning here. They've re-farmed up all this material count, but trying to figure out what's their next move now.
Really was thinking about what their storm surge is right now, 900 above, because I was kind of questioning their position inside of Seaport, inside of one of those builds. You don't have a great vantage point over every other team like Booga Threats and Rapid Dupe right above them, but they did so good getting damage early on. They don't have to worry about taking that risk, putting themselves in a spot just like that. See everybody towards the outskirts, but Threats and Rapid, kind of the leaders in this team in terms of the ones hunting for that damage. They're 760 above the threshold. They have like an emergency launch pad just in case they do need it on top if it does pull far away. I think they're setting themselves up for another one of these games where they might find themselves on the slow side of zone, maybe another top 5.
See if a top 5's in the cards here, but give it a minute. Maniac and Fuse. All right, they got caught skipping the line. They get sent back to the lobby there.
It's scary.
You gotta respect it, you know, for a solo player picking up this team, trying to get back in the running. He definitely gave it a good shot. However, it's gonna come down to game 5 for them now. For Optics, it's up to him now to see what he can do. Surge is active. They just need a tag, though, to alleviate that pressure. They have options, they have launch pads. What are you thinking, Jacob?
I'm thinking because of that launch pad, even if the zone does pull like far away, they can kind of stagger themselves in the position. It's just all dependent on how many other teams are on that side of the zone, how many other teams are kind of peeking open, especially with the zone pulling away. They can launch pad, they can kneecap her, they can close the distance in no time. 510 above though for Clicks, Iamzo, and Higgs. You see, the most builds and most builds farmed out of this trio, using all of their resources to make it through up until this point of the game. Their only real blunder so far today was, well, it was that last game.
I was going to ask you, who do you think on their team is making the call to jump on this trio? That's underneath them. They're all sizing them up, but wait a second. Power FN, 1 HP, flirting with the storm line there, and the Siphon. Whoa, talk about best opportunity right there. Gives him a lot of HP, little leftover finds here. Gonna at least give him some hope.
Oh, another med kit.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, missing some shields though, and he's 72 below the damage threshold, but Hound just trying to go and land a little bit of a cheeky shot. He doesn't need the most damage in the world. A well-placed shotgun shot, a couple of tags from the Hollow Twister AR, and another team, another player individually that he boxes up, gets the ramp in. The Mongol Classic is out, but he misses a big shot. He still has full advantage, but the tables have turned. Hound still trying to do what he can, but he's getting chunked out by the zone until he eventually goes down to Murray, who turned the tables in the blink of an eye. That was just incredible way to stay alive and start to get some placement points, because now we're in the top 17.
And that's really a showing of what happens when you catch someone off guard, right? The pressure's on. Probably had peak adrenaline rushing through him, and the nerves set in, and Hound couldn't just close it out. Look at this beautiful aerial shot right here, showing us how much contention there is on this rotate here. No easy freebies here to move across this zone right now. Everyone's on the outskirts and now starting to huddle up just at the spear point of the new storm, and most of them moved pretty early. The zone hasn't even decided to start rotating till just now. So some of the last in line here. You have Sales, you have Blake there seeing the lit, so just fights happening still, even on the edge of zone. Meanwhile, Quality Freeze and TK have to decide what they're gonna do. They're gonna go for a refresh potentially before making the move.
Yeah, although they may not necessarily need the materials and stuff now, they're trying to be proactive, seeing who they can catch off guard. Rapid Booga threat, same thing for them. They're already starting to build onto that high ground, and they're expending a lot of resources in this 8th zone. It's almost a feeling of deja vu, because one of our earlier games, we saw a team take high ground in the 8th zone. They ran out of resources, they got contested, and they lost it all.
Happens to the best. Booga, Threats, and Rapid, though, on height right now. Metal Bill's starting to come out. Curious to see what they're going to end up connecting with next. Over the top. Once again, onto Bucky Okus. They just can't get enough of this team here. And that's what happens, you know, they land near each other, so it's inevitable that they're going to be somewhat hovering depending on where the zones pull in. Last game, it was Bucky's team who got the best of them. Booga, Rapid, and Threats, though, do seem to be in the most prominent position now. And I don't see them letting go of this chokehold they have on the lobby. Clicks, Higgs, and Yamza, though, struggling through the low ground here. They've just continued to enjoy playing this low ground.
Yeah, 176 points. They're basically all but qualified. If they could just maybe make a couple more eliminations happen, a couple more placement points. 365, now they're 645 up the threshold. Yamzo taking some damage, but he's leading by example, making sure that Clicks and Higgs have a safe rotation on their way in, proven to be fruitful as they momentarily get targeted out, but they quickly jump up and over, and that's going to be the reason why Clicks goes down, just too far separated from Higgs and Yamzo.
I was gonna say, you just can't do that when you have Booga, Rapid on the high ground there with Threats. You can just see that they are shredding any opportunity of a player that gives them a chance to. And this is how you play high ground. This is how you start to rack up those elims. Again, they're not the flashiest trio by any means. However, when it comes to endgame, it's where they really start to shine and find their points. Look at the crossover here to cut this opponent off from the high ground spot. Higgs and Yamza holding on, still playing the low ground front side here, trying to rotate, but Booga has control of high ground here, but they're starting to run out of math. Booga just has 6 to work with. They're going to become desperate soon. Meanwhile, Higgs, though, on the low ground, showing what he is made of. 5 elims for them in the top 10 now. Another great showing here in the bag so far, but all eyes on Booga, Rapid, and Threats right now.
Momentary contested fight. Broken Liam and 20 were looking to go up, but they get shut down. Quickly running out of builds. Bucky goes deep into the zone. Sales goes down. He's trying to make his second FNCS finals after making his first last season, but that road is cut short. Quanti Freeze and TK down below. They know a lot of these teams are going to have to jump down and meet them on that low ground, and they're trying to be in the driver's seat when that happens. As Bucky, Cam, they're shooting towards the back. Rapid, Booga, Threat, they're using the Metamis smoke to try to buy time, but Rapid goes down again.
And Bucky's team is the last to survive here. He just waits it out and times it perfectly. Gavin might just be the refresh for them now, but Bucky's out of mats too. Cam and Okus here are at 10 eliminations. Everyone in this game here needs a refresh, needs material, needs a way to have a little bit of hope, but it's Okus right now who's on fire. That drum gun in hand making all the difference. Just 10 players standing here. No one's healthy. Booga's gonna fall. Threats is gonna fall too, and Bucky, Okus, and Cam are the only trio standing.
The only strong trio, at least, because there's one down below, but they're in shambles, getting ripped apart as 2 more players go down. Bucky is really leading by example. They have 12 eliminations as a team, 213 points, but they don't want to qualify through consistency. They want to stamp their way by force, and the drop down is now coming in. They're doing it by force because they're targeting up on the high ground, and Bucky, Cam, they're quickly running out of build, so it's almost an all or nothing situation. Cam goes down, ready to finish the fight. Damage is there, but Liam gets dropped. That's a big shot by Cam, but he gets taken out as well. Bucky by himself, 1v2 situation. The zone is there. The Siphon comes in. He needs the elimination on to 20. Now it's coming down to a 1v1 situation, and his opposition went deep in the zone to try to win by heal off, but Broken sneaks away on the other side. Bucky versus Broken, and he breaks through. Bucky takes the game and advances to the finals.
You know what? You gotta respect that end game. What a clash off it was, and you are seeing 2023 Bucky for good reason right now in prime force. Shout out to Broken though, who clutches up the shot to win the game there and send his team through to the finals. What a game that was there, Jacob.
Yeah, Broken 20. They really just took that last fight by storm. Even when things looked a little shaky, Bucky getting elimination, they're trying to tie it up. They stayed confident, they held their ground, and they picked up the eliminations. And that was big because now they don't have to play the last game out. They can watch all the action out tomorrow. They get a full week break before finals.
Look at this angle here. It was a crazy fight. I thought Bucky had it here, but the shotgun out of, you know, just ammo there gave Broken all the confidence there in the world. The victory royale for game number 420. Liam Broken will be going straight to the finals there, Zeke.
Bro, what was that end game? Dude, these games have gotten more and more chaotic as they've gone on. Obviously, we will talk about Bucky after the break, but we have to focus in on Broken 20 and Liam securing themselves a spot going to next week's finals. Oh my gosh. You know, I feel like we can't give enough credit to the players like who kind of make it to like those last top 2, right? Because you just have to be in like so much control, so much focus that you have to know kind of what's happening at every moment. Like obviously the game as a whole is chaotic, but when you come down to that last 1v1, man, you have to be zen and in the moment. And for them, Broken was, right? On the other side, Bucky not having the shotgun ammo or reloaded, Broken ready, right? It doesn't matter who's on the other side. I just need to hit this shot, and he does. And now their trio is going to the finals.
Especially when you go from a like 2v1 against Bucky and one of your players goes down, you gotta think the 1v1, the final moment there, that's every like opportunity for Bucky to take the win. But Broken, in that final positioning that we got to see in the 1v1, he knew where Bucky was aiming towards his opponent, so he actually rotates in front of him to drop down where Bucky isn't facing. It was such a smart play from Broken, and what's even more smart from them is that they were in 26th place before that game, and I think between the points that you can earn in 2 games, that's just not going to be enough for consistency. So to get that victory royale in one of the last moments you can, Vivid, that's what stories are made of.
Yeah, I mean, gotta love the format, right? The underdog story right there coming true. 20, Liam and Broken, they did such a good job. It's not very often we actually see a team actually contest high ground, right? They did that against Booga, Threats, and they didn't end up getting the high ground, so they just full reset and opted, you know what, listen, if we can't get the high ground, we'll go to the complete opposite. We'll play the low ground for the rest of the game. Worked out very, very well from that trio. Great adaptation right there. We'll see them in finals.
Man, what a game. Of course, we'll break down that clutch from Bucky after this short break, so stay tuned. More to come. Welcome back, everybody, to the FNCS. All right, let's talk about that crazy Bucky endgame. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I'm sorry, I can't help but do it. Man, these guys almost got the victory royale. An amazing game from Bucky, from Ocus, from Cam. 14 eliminations. They're currently first place on the leaderboard. And I mean, after that last game, I mean, of course.
Of course. Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. These mountain zones are just, you know, eliminating me, Vivid. I can't handle all of this elevation changing that these trios are having to do, and I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing High Ground trade so many hands compared to what we saw from Group 1. Bucky, though, doing everything he can, almost getting the 1v2, but just a little bit distracted by Liam there, giving Broken the exact opportunity he needed to take Bucky down in those final moments. But Vivid, Bucky showed everyone that he's not done yet. He's not washed up. He is here to go for the grand finals.
I mean, you gotta love it about Bucky, right? I mean, it's also with their trio in general throughout the day. They've just gotten better with every single game. You know what I mean? They've gone from 22nd to 9th to 3rd to 2nd, right? And it's like after those first 2 games, we were like, oh man, like Bucky, Ocus, and they're not really doing too hot. But then we have games like the last 2, right? And they're just doing so well. And I love how Kelly mentioned that at the end there, Bucky almost picked up that 1v2. It was just like 5 seconds before that in that highlights. He did hit a 1v2, right? So it's like that would have been the second one of the game. But I actually love how they played that, right? At one point, they were on 2nd height, and it was like they look back in the zone and they just see the med mist, you know, bomb going off back there. And it's like, I wonder if there's a trio back there, because otherwise they would have had no idea. But they can literally see it. They start to apply pressure to Booga's trio, which was ultimately the fault for their trio. But what a great showing from Bucky's trio right there.
Yeah, man. And you saw it there in the clip. So he goes for like the pickaxe because he goes to shoot and then he swaps to the pickaxe, right? Why wouldn't you just shoot? It's because he had to reload, right? Just think the difference that would have made a single shot in that. I mean, he was primed for it. He had the angle and everything. It's just, it is sometimes how it goes, right? I've also noticed we've just had an alarming amount of mountain zones. Sorry about that, guys. When I typed in the code for today where the zones would be, I missed one button there, so I went ahead and changed it. So we shouldn't have a mountain zone. Beep, boop, beep, beep should be good now, I think. Man, you kind of called out Booga rapid and threats there as well. I love that, dude. That got me. I'm not gonna lie to just, and shout out to the observers when we get that wide shot of like, you look up to the top left and you're like, what's going on there? Like, why'd they stop moving? And then we cut to their perspective and they're sliding down the mountain with no mats, and it's like, oh, okay, I see. Like, they just kind of, they made the play, right? They did what they could with what they had.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time we've seen Booga lose height and actually be able to kind of handle the situation well. Obviously, though, like you said, that zone, there's just only so much that you can do. But that actually, I think part of the reason why they were low on mats is because 20 tried to steal height away from them in an earlier zone, and they were able to actually kind of stop 20 and be able to regain height once again. But, you know, once you do enter those engagements in the high ground, your mats just disappear. And so you got to kind of think, are we just going to stick to high ground and hope that the zone pulls back over our build, or is this when we drop to low and mid ground? But dropping on the leaderboard here, just one single space. Rapid, Booga, and Threats now currently sitting in 6th place, and my goodness, Vivid in 1st place. Well, it's none other than Bucky, Ocus, and Cam.
Yeah, I mean, incredible for them to kind of find themselves towards the top of the leaderboard, kind of bringing ourselves back to like the Booga, Threats, and Rapid conversation. Though, you know, most consistent when we talk about a trio is usually the one that we see towards the top of the consistency leaderboard. But if you actually take a look at the games that Booga, Threats, and Rapid have had, they've been like the most consistent, right? They've been top 6 every single game. They kind of have low eliminations between 2 and 5 every single game, which is why, you know, we typically see them not actually be able to find themselves in winning positions because they're so low on eliminations. But all their games very, very similar. So I'm actually going to coin them as like the most consistent trio right now.
I like it.
Okay, I vibe with it. I vibe. Guys, this is it. Last game of the day. One final opportunity to either get a victory royale or to end in the top 5 in consistency. For the last time, just today, Monster D Phase, Jacob PR, over to you.
Who would have thought it all comes down to this moment right here? Monster, by no means are any FNCSs over after today, but it will get exponentially harder having to go through that last chance qualifier.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And you know what? If you're about that 191 point threshold for Clicks, they still have to earn a little bit more to feel super confident about being qualified. But from there up, the OGs, the veterans, right? They just about have done it. So here we have it. Game number 5. Let's go. All right, Jacob, this is the last time we're jumping on the battle bus for this Saturday evening here. And we gotta say, this has not disappointed. Group 2, we knew was gonna be the most stacked coming into it. And I gotta ask you, just give me the real answer. Has it exceeded your expectations or what?
I think these groups in general, from last week to this week, surpassed it by a long shot. When you typically think some of these tier 1 names, the superstars that you've seen every single season, are not winning games and they're having to fight and really claw their way up the leaderboard in order to qualify, hey, that just screams excitement. That just goes to show how difficult and how challenging some of these newcomers are actually becoming in the state of Fortnite competitive.
Yeah, I think, you know, even looking at the teams that have pulled some victories, right? The only one up there that to me was no surprise was Muzz's trio, Japco and Rise, and everyone else really has have to fight for it. It's been neck and neck contended battles in the end, and really the low ground teams just finding opportunities. So at every layer, it's been extremely interesting. But take a look at this. Jake, Udendogo contesting the Lone Wolf layer. So this is new for Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo. They have typically had this drop completely to themselves before rotating out to the Magic Mosses or otherwise, but already they seem to be strapped in and ready for action here. If they get this elimination here, these 3 elims, I think that'll be all they need to be qualified through. So we'll see.
Yeah, this is a real interesting decision from Doggo, Jake, and their trio, because like you said, they're essentially all but qualified. On the other side, you have 9 points. You need the victory royale in order to keep your FNCS journey alive in terms of going directly to the finals. So just a very interesting decision. On the other side, Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo, throughout the course of the day, early game, you know it's been Storm Surge or lack thereof that has been one of their problems. Now you give them contested out of the gates. If they win this fight, free and early Storm Surge. This will be a huge confidence boost if they can win, for either team, for that matter.
See what Jake's got. He's looking for an angle here, working around the outsides. Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo, though, making sure they maintain the vault here first. That's going to be the huge reward, but this team slowly working their way down. They're a bit split up. Dogo sitting on top of Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo here. They might be looking for the double edit, but he's just throwing those thermites down, right? Looking for the explosion, looking to really cost them their mats here, which I got to say is a great strategy right now, because you know they don't have much down here. Jake playing the outskirts. Oh, no, he's got the big explosions coming in now, and this is one of the most destructive weapons in the game right now. Cooldown resets pretty fast here.
The most annoying thing is it's unlimited ammo. You can just continue to just charge it, break a lot of these covers. And you saw moments ago, they did not have a lot of material overall. They immediately got pushed down low in toward their vault. There's not a lot of farm to fight there. So they can continue right now for Jake and his trio to put this pressure on from above and not get too antsy to get eliminations or damage. This might actually work out for them, because you see Clicks, final build, already down and out. Yes, the vault has opened up, but there's still very little materials overall if this breaks down into a whole fight.
Well, we know they have the weapons to work with, though, so let's see how this is going to end up playing out. Splashes come through, so they're healthy. They're ready to farm it, but Jake is just putting in this pressure here.
They have 2. They have 2. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I almost feel like Clicks, Yamzo, and Higgs are crossing their fingers, hoping for a third party to come in, distract this team so they can try to make their way out. There's 2 different lasers just beaming into the box. What little builds they have left going out the window. But that's the second time at least Higgs is finding little angles here to fight back, deal some damage, and kind of whittle down their resources on the other side.
If Huge's the only one on this trio right here that actually has mats. He was the one that was busy playing high ground. They leave one behind. They got to make a move now while they have a chance. If they notice that this team let up the pressure a bit. And luckily it's because Aaron and Nut have seen what is unfolding here, and they're already rotating in. So this is going to give Clicks' trio the opportunity to sneak away, and it seems like they're finally out of the vault now. And there they go, the full disengage from the other side. So, hey, I think they got to count their lucky stars here, because this could have ended really badly. And like we said, of all the 3 teams that are up at the top from 7th, 6th, and 5th place spots respectively right now, they're the lowest, and they're the ones that are questionably on that borderline for how many points you would likely need at the end of this game to be fully qualified, right?
Just a very, very overall just good choice, but I even like it better the disengage. The longer a fight like that goes on, we both know, we saw it last week, where a third party starts to come in. It makes it harder and harder for anybody to try to survive a position like that. Back on over to Crime City, where we've seen Vortec, Nerface, and Bacon, at least in the feed, solidified the eliminations to win Crime City for themselves. Maybe a little bit of a slower start than they wanted, but now they get the vault, and they can make their way towards the black market. Just have to be very, very conscientious and aware of the potential of how many other teams are either in Crime City getting the scraps like we see one is, or overall at the black market just trying to take as much loot that they can for themselves.
Well, they did finish the team fight there too, so that's the first time they get the insta elims at the Crime City, so much better position for them to be in coming into this last game. Blake, Sales, and Sonetto, though, 160 points here, holding on to the dream right now for another finals appearance. And look at their strategy right now. Completely spread out across the Foxy Floodgate, taking full control of this area. And they have the high ground mountain as well for just downloading all the information here.
It's almost like a stressful situation when you are the line. In terms of the top 5 in consistency, you said 160. They are that team in 5th place. Do you think that adds a little bit of nerves, or do you think it kind of builds a little bit of confidence? As long as we continue to play how we're playing, we should be okay.
Yeah, I definitely am in the camp that if you are about to qualify through consistency, you have more nerves. You have more nerves than any other game, but I could be wrong. I mean, Fuse, Tick, Vibes are definitely in the same situation here with Maniac there, but Illusion Vibes are pushing for the fight right now. Oh, another team's coming into this. This is not looking good for Maniac's trio, but ooh, just so happens that Maniac's team is not the one targeted and Vibe's team is instead, and now they're forced into the sandwich here. They're the team in the middle somehow. And sometimes, you know, there is a little bit of luck factor involved in this game. And if you're the Tick, Fuse, and Maniac, you're happy you get bailed out of there. They were lower on material. They were almost, again, arguably losing that exchange, and now they get to slide on out of there.
Yeah, and they're one position above Blake on that leaderboard. So they're inside of the bubble. Anybody going down here, especially if you're in contention of getting one of those consistency spots, you're gonna feel the pain. Rightfully so, because of how close you actually are. 3 teams still in this position. 2 more just towards the north. 4 overall into 2 separate battles here. Everybody just trying to spray into the box. And you see Recore, Taram, and Ariel, aka that is Dorito, like you kind of mentioned earlier on. They were able to get into the black market from Magic Mosses and get that mythic collateral AR.
Look at this. Forced into the buildings here. This is all just starting to go downhill for them now. Ariel, Recore, thinking about moving out of here. They're at 90 points, so they've managed to have their moments, but not quite enough to be up inside the consistency range, so they'll likely need a Victor Royale as well. Jumping back to Clicks, Higgs, Yamzo here. They're not forgetting what team was costing them their early game situation. They're getting right back into it, this time now with a lot more arsenal to work with. Clicks playing the outskirts, allowing Yamzo and Higgs to be the front man. Yamzo calling for the disengage, though. They're content with the tags. And look, they still have a long way to go right before they get all their material counts situated here. So not quite out of the woods just yet for their mid games.
Yeah, almost seemed they can kind of just go back towards that black market. They do have some extra gold, a surplus, so they're able to kind of utilize a lot of the resources down there before they make their rotation out. Noxy, Virgo, Mason, 158 points in terms of consistency. They would be 6th place on that leaderboard, and they started only 2 points down. Monster, that is one elimination that really could make the difference at the end of the day from going through last chance qualifier or going to the FNCS finals. So it's really almost got me at the edge of my seat, nervous for a lot of these competitors today.
Oh, Iamzo gets the fall damage, by the way. I was wondering, I'm like, huh, what are we watching? Clearly he's not hitting the shot, but little fall damage here just to round that story out. And looking at the feed, Higgs gets the follow-up. So we'll jump back in the second. First, the Mini Beans, Rivet, and regular BRD right now have to win this fight here.
It's Jez, Jerem, Ayo, and Liam on the other side. Even though it's two teams here, one team towards the right, just on the outside. That's one third party, and right to their left as well from the west, coming in from the north. That's a fourth potential third-party team, and I don't think anybody here has a line of sight on those third-party potential crashes coming in. So it could end up in a dangerous situation, but they're not really giving up their position. They're not necessarily trying to advance forward for no reason, even though one does take some damage. He's going to have to cower back. Let his team pressure outward so that way he can try to get those shields back up and become healthy once more.
That's just Doritos' team coming from the outskirts, just listening, just watching. They don't want to dive in because we have that high ground trio, letting this fight kind of take its course. Mini Beans jumps in, finally now looking for the closer. Nicely timed there onto KD first. Now Liam tries to come to the rescue, puts a great tag down, but at the end of the day, it's 3 shots, 3 guns, 3 barrels versus just yours. They have the numbers advantage, and it comes through. And Doritos' team dives on the team in the tower. They're like, oh, you don't want to jump on them? We're going to jump on you. And that might be a fight breaking out up top. So very active part of the northern zone there. Meanwhile, Maniac, again, on the bubble. In the qualification range right now, Jacob. They're holding on here. But they're playing way more passively than any other round we've seen them before, playing these dead rotates now. This is also the first we've seen an Eastern pool like this. So this is what, you know, I think is telling, right? We asked that question, when you are about to qualify, does it make you nervous? Do you do new things? They look to be doing new stuff right now.
Yeah. I was kind of agreeing that. I knew exactly where you're going, where typically a team like that would kind of crash a fight, get their surge that way. They realize how close they actually are. And if you look at some of their games, 8th, 6th, 2nd, they only had one bad game where it's 22nd with 1 elim. So they realize as long as they can kind of take little notes, those recipes from the first 3 earlier games, get towards the end game, the rest should be a little bit easier. Not everybody having that luxury, though, as you see them still kind of bunkered down in this position. The 2 victors, essentially, of the previous fights that we were watching, still within 1 box away from another, just outside of the zone. So they're kind of just waiting. You rotate. You know, you rotate. That's one of the things is you kind of have to rotate first if you're one of these teams, and you just got to be very, very careful not to take too much free damage when you do finally make that rotation.
There's a team not giving up any free damage. Cam, Ocus, Bucky, 219 points. They've made it. We'll be seeing them in the finals, undoubtedly. What is this? What is this gross angle they're playing right now, trying to catch someone off guard right here?
What they're doing right now is they're hoping somebody comes in from outside of Storm with a water sprite that has maybe 1 or 2 charges. They go to recharge it at the shrine, and that's what the angle Bucky was looking for. Not really seeing anybody rotate in that direction. They're just going to quickly reposition. They don't want to be hunkered down too far deep, especially since they look over towards Mass Meadows. They hear and see multiple teams towards the backside of zone, and to them, they just smell opportunities at Surge.
A lot of teams situated. And backward Nerf faces trio. Forced a med miss deep in a storm right now. This is going to attract a lot of attention that they've already garnered, it seems. But the surge is active. One team's going to fall to the west there to it. And you don't have to worry about that. They're 3 elims above. Looking just fine. Taking a nice little rotate here underneath the lip of this low ground. Clicks Iamzo and Higgs. Getting into the fight. This is up against a Mini and Rivet, so they try to come play for what seemed to be a reboot, but Iamzo caught out of position, put down. Clicks has to play rescue now. Mini Beans thinking about coming back for the siphon. Splashes come down to keep Iamzo capped off here.
Uh-oh. That third party, Dorito and his trio again here in the know. He's outside his zone.
They're coming in.
Crash it. Clicks looking to get aggressive. while they have a little bit of an advantage since they did get Yamzo up. The men miss smoke going down. Clix is going to try to utilize that. That was a mini beans on the other side as a couple of shots are going to land. No knock just yet. Just the shield going outside of the window. Clix not having a sentinel pump, so the damage isn't what he wants it to be, but he finds another mistake and takes advantage, getting that elimination in that fight. And now they see Rivet by himself a solo, and they're going to pressure all three together, take them down, and put that team right back to the lobby.
I was going to say, if nothing else, at least this is good that they're earning points right now because the chunk splashes are starting to come through. The gold splash effect is on Dorito, Aereo, and ProAm right now. We're now looking to press the issue, but there's another trio as well here. It is not looking good for Clix, Higgs, and Yamzo here, who have all of this attention attracted out of nowhere. And yes, they may have found the extra mats here, but it's all going straight to defensive use here to try to stay in the game. Vibes, Elush, and Zexy here actually are pretty desperate right now, forced to take tags, so a little bit of a saving opportunity here. Starting to line up for them.
Oh, so like they didn't think this one through when they immediately tried to push towards the backside of the zone. There's kind of pulling further and further towards the south. Yamzo, Higgs, Clix took that fight rather quick enough, allows them to kind of disengage for free. And they're going to go ahead all the way towards that eastern side, try to make that slow rotation over. Booga, Rapid Threat, staying in Seaport City. Since it moved over in their direction, they've been able to utilize that, take shots at every single team, almost every single team in the lobby to get 1,300 damage above the threshold. You see they're leading every team with over 11,000 damage in this game.
They just can't seem to get a break right now. Clix, Yamzo, Higgs really struggling to get ahead, you know, just setback after setback right now. Clix is the last in line there. Yamzo just squeezing away. Clix jumps down under that bridge there. Don't go up. Don't do that, yeah. Stay low. There it is. Gets the Yamzo's builds. Rapid Threats and Booga. I was going to say, was Booga actually hip firing, by the way, 4 surge tags there? He sure was. It's kind of crazy.
Uh-oh. Clix goes down. That means Threats knows. Threats knows. He saw the knock. It's just, do they stay? Do they worry about it? With how weak they actually are down below, but they have a lot of extra heals up above. Remember, they have the vault. They had access. They can buy more out of these machines. That Yamzo sees at least one med kit left behind. Almost nothing for Higgs, and almost makes you think there's not enough gold for the patch up either. So he's really going to be relying on whatever Yamzo has on his inventory and whatever they find along the way.
Oh, they just left Clix. They couldn't pick him up. It wasn't worth sitting around. They got to worry about moving to the new storm line. And look, hey, like I said, those 3 eliminations, extremely important. It puts them at 200 points now, right? They could have been at 191, which would have surely raised some concerns, but 200 feels a little bit better. Shots come in on the distance, and that's from Threats there. Higgs now forced to fight back here. This could be a great opportunity for him to find something. He's got to go all in on this Frenzy fight here. Frenzy knows it too. Great edit. It's his as well. He's waiting for it. Oh no, pressure's on, and he does find the tag there. Nice. So many mats picked up there. Puts him at 99. Siphon's going to keep him alive and healthy for now as well. This is a great opportunity for the Xset Higgs right now. Again, making his debut on this stage here. We'll see what he can do. The opportunity, the chance is his now. For Threats, Rapid, and Booga, they've all but solidified their position. This is the most elims we've seen from them, Jacob, in an early game like this. So already confidence going up for this trio here.
Yeah, just game after game. Exactly what you're seeing here. Them holding themselves back into the zone, and now they can easily rotate straight to the east to where the zone is kind of covered up over towards the Kappa factory, make their way in, really all dependent on the heals that they do have left, but already you're seeing that's going to be the strategy as they start to make their way on over. A lot of teams are going to disperse, take a control of the rest of that zone towards the outside, so timing for them is of the essence if they really want to capture that position overall. Bucky, Okus, Cam, same thing for them, but their journey is not as far and almost not as risky with them not taking damage from the zone.
I'm also still looking at that map. I see one solo lurking late on the back. Could be Higgs there. Here's Okus. the king with the drum gun here in the group stage. So far, really putting up a great performance all in all. They got a short way to the new storm there. It's going to be nice and easy for them, up and over. Using those kneecappers. Looking at things from the sky here, Nerface is one of the few teams in a prime position right now. Maniac, the Tick, and Fuse. They can just sense grand finals. Just a arm's reach away, but they got to make this top 10. Oh, look at the lurk.
I'm just wondering if Booga Threats Rapid even saw that. We know on the other side of the map, they know they're lurking nearby, but you see the western side of the zone overall. You have them, dead center, Maniac, Fuse, and the Tick right in the middle. Every single other team is stacked on the western part of the zone, and they're feeling it because now Threats is pressured underneath. 15 HP, gets peeked at by Nut, taken down. Booga and Rapid now stuck as a duo, and you can see, even though they might have some materials, the lack of heals, the lack of resources is the most alarming part of this situation, as Rapid finds elimination on the Byla, at least giving him some materials. He's almost maxed out, and it may be bandages, but at least it's something for them to work with, Monster.
This is bad. They go blow for blow, and then the zone pulls far south. Like, this is perfect for Maniac and Fuse's team, who had the opportunity to watch that go down and then get a relatively free pass for the rotate there. Noxy, though, what happened here? Their tournament run is on the line now. Virgo and Mason are down. It's up to Noxy to try to clutch this one out solo. If
Noxy doesn't win this game, he just needs to pick up as many solo points as possible and hope and pray any of those teams above him on the leaderboard that are in the bubble win the game, because that would open up a spot at the bottom of the leaderboard, and they are that spot. So there's a lot of pressure on Noxy to try to make something happen. Luckily for him, 672 above the damage threshold. For him, it's going to be a monumental focus on getting from point A to point B, not taking too many risks and challenges, and just survive.
And look at this, Booga and Rapid still alive on the outskirts here, just riding their way through ever so slightly. High Ground has a whole new trio up top. It's Nerface's team trying to go back for back. They had a chance to win the game before. They're looking to see if they can do it again. The Tick, Fuse, and Maniac, though, are in position right now to go to finals if they can just weather this storm in this zone. It doesn't get more dangerous than this. Half of it's in the water. It's going to force artificial congestion here on the landmass, where, you know, usually you'd have a little bit of a spread going here, but forget that. Meanwhile, on height, a much different situation happening here. This time they have mats to work with. Nerface's team is feeling pretty good about this one.
And for a second, you thought no hills, no mountains in the zone. Fortnite said, but wait, we got one more, as it goes back on over to the north toward the Kappa Kappa factories. Not as drastic as some of the other games, but it's definitely going to play an impact. As High Ground right now is still dominated by Vortex, Bacon, and Nerface. They have not looked back at that opportunity, but down below, Break Sales, Sinetto, 9 below the damage threshold. It's not alarming right now, but sooner or later, they're going to have to figure out where they're going to get that damage. And right now, it does look like Noxy's the target. We know he's a solo. He's getting some placement points, but it's not enough yet.
Yeah, Noxy's still holding on here. 167, still making a run for it, and he's above the threshold somehow. So Sinetto, Blake, and Sales arguably have more of a difficult situation ahead of them, but they're working through the low ground. Noxy just watching what's happening. Sinetto looking for a chance, looking for an opportunity. They're going to break through this wall here. It's Fuse in front of them. This is everything. This is both their tournament opportunities on the line right now. They choose to dive on Maniac's team, and Maniac, recognizing the danger behind them, recognizing danger in front of them, they have to make a decision here and choose a battle as well.
It's basically 3-4 bubble teams all clashing right here, right now. Bucky's gonna get the knock on the one. His spot all but secured, 240 points, and he is just crushing hopes, crushing dreams on his way to the finish line. 714 damage for them. Not a singular worry in the world as they make it forward in towards zone. They're not there just yet, but they're just staggering themselves to try to catch anybody off guard. Everybody else is trying to make their way in. Noxy with a good shot on the one, but he has to try to make his way out. There's only so long he can stay in this situation, and he might try to make it happen as he gets the down. Siphon comes in. Noxy, it's still alive.
He's still going, and now he's trying to heal his way through this one. I can't believe Noxie is still holding on right now. 14 teams in the game. He is clawing his way through this end game right now. He really desperately wants it. Sales somehow loses his teammates, and where he had the lead just moments ago, now finds himself down and out. That means Noxie has out-survived him as well. What is going on right now? Everyone's tournament runs are on the line here. Meanwhile, a fight for high ground breaking out. Look at their point threshold too. No one is safe just yet for consistency here. Big tags coming out here. Kneecapper sending players fighting on both sides. And oh no, high ground is starting to go down.
Oh my god! That was just you! That's a home run! Carillion goes down! He's staying alive! They're on the bubble, and they're trying to burst their way in, and it's all up to one solo player, Monster. 186 points, no builds left, a top 10 performance. Its nether team is gonna go down, making his way into the top 9. Booga's gonna take down Cam. Hound is gonna fall. Maniac and Fuse are the duo on the low ground, trying to keep their dreams alive for this FNCS.
Well, I'm just watching what's going on for Maniac's team down here on the low ground. They're down to just 2 players, 207 points earned, a refresh in front of them, an opportunity awaits. Meanwhile, Malji and Gavin are just listening to this all go down. Take a look at this, though. Big eliminations happening here for Nerdface's trio. They're still in the running. Siphon keeping him alive. He doesn't know which way to go, up or down. Players in his box. He's going to fall. And now, down to the ultimate low. Kneecapper sending Maniac flying in. And he's still fighting for it though, Jacob, but no, the bat is coming out, and Zip is here to earn these points. They are at 11 eliminations. What is happening here?
All duos left alive, but a spoke Totoon. Sandman's just trying to win it. 1v2 situation. He has the mythic pump, 80 HP, and time to pop these minutes. But down below, Gavin, he has the huge win condition, the med kit, the med mist smoke. He needs to be able to play this right, but Sandman on the high ground, full control over the game. He knows that duo down below is going to have to make their way up the mountain, and that is the moment he's trying to strike. First down's going to go through. Maji lost it all, but Gavin, with all the HP in the world, it's going to come down to Sandman. Can he make the play? Can he stop the heal off? He goes in, tries to slide in, and gets another shot, and does it. He clutches up, stops the heal off, and makes his way to the finals.
Talk about putting it all on the table there and fighting for it when it matters the most. And he made the right decision. One could argue that that was so risky, but in the end, he hits the tags that matters. Game 5 was easily the most entertaining. Talk about a close run. 56 players had their first opportunity, their first chance to fight for a finals today, and a few made it through. Xanda, Evan, and Sandalit end up being one of those teams now. A 12 elimination game, and then 14-15 elims to win that game there. Jacob, what a run for them that was.
What a run. Don't let those points down below confuse you. Just because they have over 1,000 doesn't show enough of what they went through in this game. They started in 21st place, Monster. 74 points. We were talking all day long. You don't want to be in that win or you're in situation, but they were not only in that situation, they destroyed. Congratulations to them, but that's going to do it for myself and Monster D-Face. Going to throw it on to Zeke, Kelly, and Vivid to let us know who was consistent and who's going to finals.
Okay. Breathe, Zeke. Breathe. Okay. First off, obviously, congratulations, Sand the Elite, Xanda, and Evan. You've secured your spot going to the FNCS finals next week. We're excited to see you there. This was an all-out battle until the last moments of this game. And the points were extremely close. We'll get to that in a moment, because I do want to give you guys a second to kind of tell me what you thought about that game. What'd you think?
I mean, I love it. I love it when one of these underdog teams is able to come out on top and get that victory royale. And it kind of seemed like the last 4 teams that we saw in that end game there, Vivid, were all kind of underdog teams. So an opportunity for them to shine in the light a little bit. But it was Sand that shined the brightest there, going for the final elimination. And look how long he had to be a solo player. It might have been a little bit of a benefit for him, though, that it seemed like almost everyone there wasn't a full trio.
Yeah, I mean, this was crazy, right? 1v2 to clinch up the finals qualification spot. And actually, yeah, like Kelly was mentioning, a lot of these teams that were actually in the very end of this game were teams that needed that win. Gavin's team was definitely one of them. So this was the 1v1. One of these trios was going to finals. One was not. Sandman comes out on top. He's going to finals. Gavin's trio, unfortunately, is not. So there was so much on the line with that little 1v2 at the end there. Incredible stuff. MDF said it best. This was one of the most exciting games for sure.
Let's remind ourselves, because we have had 5 games.
Right.
Let's remind ourselves of who got the victory royales throughout today. At the first game, Muzz, Yapko, and Rise obviously walked away with the victory royale. Game 2, Enough, Hayes, and Mafia. Game 3, Dolzer, Natmos, and Aiden. Game 4, Broken 20 and Liam. And finally, to round it out, Sandman here, Evan, and Xanda. Okay, so let's start to talk about these standings. Okay, so we know going into that game, obviously Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo fell early. So the question is, was that enough? Was it enough for Noxy? Noxy playing as a solo, had to fight his way through for a very long time. Was it enough? Someone like Blake, right? Blake we knew was in and out, in and out. Let's take a look at these standings together. Remember, just look at the top 10 and up. That's basically your top 5. Oh, here, perfect graphic. First off, of course, a massive congratulations. Bucky, Okus, and Cam came out as the strongest trio rather in first place. We start to go down the list. Rapid, Booga, Threats. We knew they were performing well. Pathetic. Here, though, this is where things start to get a little crazy because Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo do make it in with 203 points. That was so stressful because 203 points wasn't safe, right? And when you guys start to see these standings and you see how close it got, it was a difference of only 5 points that could have pulled them out of that top 5. This was a nail biter. This was a nail biter. This was a tough one.
I mean, you know, when we were watching the game in the green room, I was like, oh, it's obvious. Clicks has won. There's no concern here. He has 200 points. And you guys were saying, no, that doesn't mean that he's going to be able to make it. And, you know, the group 1 point threshold was 195 points. I thought it was going to be a shoo-in, but for it to just be a 5-point difference between Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo and Slepsy, Gloom, and Zip, that is absolutely insane. And in that final game of Slepsy, Gloom, and Zip, they were one of the final trios. They got 3rd place with 11 eliminations. Can you imagine, even not of winning the game, but if they got 2nd or if they got just 2 or 3 more eliminations, they would have knocked Clicks out of the running. And you know, Vivid, a lot of people like to say that North American Central, it's predictable, it's boring, but the fact that we have Group 1 where Peterbot doesn't win a single game and now Group 2 where Clicks almost doesn't qualify through consistency, I don't know if NA is as predictable as people think.
This was very close. This was very close to an entirely different conversation. That would have been crazy, those 5 points. But hey, listen, you got to come up. You got to beat teams, right? 5 points. It's enough to qualify them to finals. But I'm not going to lie. I was worried, right? Like Kelly mentioned, we were watching the game and they went down. And I was like, Kelly, that is not safe at all. And I'm happy that I ended up kind of being right in that sense. But yeah, Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo, they got to be like, whoo. That was a close one.
Bro, they had to watch like the last 15 minutes of Fortnite and just watch and just sit there and think it's over, right? Like if someone hits at least 203, it's over. I mean, man, what a stressful time. But that concludes group number 2. We still have a whole group tomorrow with new trios to talk about, new drop spots, all that good stuff. What do you guys think of group number 2?
What do I think of the group we just saw today? Absolutely incredible. Great storylines. I love that we had, you know, some predictability where we knew that Muzz's trio was going to do well and they get the first victory royale. Not much of a surprise, but also some upsets. These mountain zones need to stop, Zeke. Please, for group 3, can we have some normal zones?
I'll look at the code. I'm the one who writes it also.
Remember we talked about it earlier. This was actually the most experienced group in terms of how many FNCS finals appearances all of these players combined have. versus Group 1 and Group 3, and I feel like that really showed. We saw a lot of our teams be very, very consistent throughout the day, and we also got to see some teams make their first FNCS finals, which is very, very exciting. Group 2 definitely delivered, which makes me that much more excited for Group 3 tomorrow.
Ooh, boy, tomorrow is a big day because that'll start to round out. It'll give us another 10 trios going on to finals. But don't forget, it's not over. We still have a last chance qualifier, okay? So if your favorite trio doesn't make it in tomorrow or hasn't yet at this point, there's still the LCQ. There is still hope. We never back down, never give up, okay? All right? I changed it a little bit. Love you, Nick. Don't forget, tomorrow before us, EU is taking place. They'll have their Group 3 before us. So if you want to watch more Fortnite, go check them out. And as always, ProAm still a thing, happening May 10th. Tickets are available. We hope to see you guys there. Until tomorrow, we love you. Keep yourself safe. We'll see you on that battle bus.
Beep, beep.
If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying that I fall. Through shadows, been burning through these battles. No weakness in my body, need to know you better ask somebody. Already, I consume the patty, it's plenty. I leave a penny for thoughts about how I'm living. Ay, turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, it's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, me off the top, no way. I came and called my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow up where you supposed to go. Proceed on the low, can't lose if I'm to go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track.